Good evening, everyone. It's been a long time coming. Welcome to J&K Sports Talk. This is our first episode, I'd say. I mean, we have the experience, but this is our first true episode of me and Kyle doing our own talk here. First things first, this is our college basketball show. So, it's our preview show. We're going to go through the Power 5 rankings, uh, rank each team, go through their key losses and wins. Well, key gains and losses. Shit. What you got, Kyle?
So pretty much, we're going to start off here at the Big East Conference here at the top, and I think the first team to talk about is obviously the defending national champions in UConn. As for my power rankings in the Big East Conference, I am predicting UConn to win the Big East yet again. I think I think that they are definitely the clear favorite, and I think they're definitely clearly above the rest of the competition. They bring in the number two guy out of the transfer portal, and Aiden Mahaney, who is just an absolute star. Averaged over 20 points per game both seasons at St. Mary's. He's a junior. You're bringing in the five-star freshman Liam McNeely to be the sharpshooter. It's a lineup and it's a team that is just it's loaded from top to bottom. And the bench depth, I mean, you got Terrace Reed, transfer from Michigan, Solomon Ball, transfer from UCI, UC Irvine. I mean, it's a loaded team, and Dan Hurley just he loads up on this team every single year, and he just continues to reload. It's like every time you think, oh, they're losing 4 or 5 players to the NBA, he just goes out there and brings in more NBA prospects, and it's impressive to see what he can do. And I think they'll be right back at the top yet again of the Big East, and probably right back at the top for national championship contender again. Is it going to be a three in a row? We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I look at their roster this season, and I look at Aiden Mahaney. You saw him last year at St. Mary's. He pretty much was all they had. He was their leader, and if he translate his game over at UConn this year the same way, I expect him to pick right up where he left off. Uh, but the player that I think has the spotlight for UConn this year is Alex Caravan. Losing Donovan Clingan, Castle, those were two big guys last year that were ballers, and this is a chance for Caravan to show what he can do. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Caravan's shoulders, but like you said, UConn always gets in these players every year when you think they're gonna have a down season. Hurley always turns it around and he just makes something out of it, and I'm very excited to see what they do this season. I know both of us we got them ranked first in our Big East, which is well warranted. Until they get knocked off, you gotta have them up top.
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like these there's two, three, four teams because we both have in our power rankings. We both have the same two, three, four. My personal opinion, I think you could rank these teams in any order you want. The next three teams are Creighton, Xavier, and Marquette, and I think you could put either of them at two, three, and four. We both have Creighton at number two. And my big reason for having Creighton at number two still is they have one of the best centers in college basketball returning in Ryan Kalkbrenner. And this guy, he's the real deal. He's a great center. He's a shot blocking machine. He can score at the rim. Ryan Kalkbrenner is in my opinion the out of the Big East Conference, he's the best center in the Big East Conference. And not to mention that they also bring in a transfer in Pop Isaacs, who is his potential. He was a transfer from Texas Tech. His potential is just it's through the roof. And last year at Texas Tech, we saw some big games from him. Last year at Texas Tech, we saw some really bad games from him. I think getting out of the Big 12 and getting into the Big East, I think a new scenery can really lift up Isaac's spirit and really tap into that potential that I think he can be at that great shooting guard position. And then they returned Stephen Ashworth, the fifth year senior. This is his second year with Creighton, and he's kind of the facilitator. He can shoot the ball, and I'd like to see him shoot the ball a little bit more this year because I think that would help them out, this Creighton team out. It would help them out a lot.
Yeah. Losing Baylor Shireman and Trey Alexander, those both combined last year for 35 points per game. So I guess the question would be is how they're gonna make up for this. Pop Isaacs at the 2 is going to be very interesting because if I remember correctly, last year at Texas Tech, he was their point guard. He did
Yes, he was. Yep.
just about everything for that team. So I'm very excited to see that him off ball movement and just how he works around Ashworth. And if those two can get it going with the pick and roll with Kalkbrenner, that team is going to be right up there with UConn competing for the Big East. Not to mention they do got Jemiah Neal coming in. He's transferred from Arizona State, and this team could make some noise come March. I think they will be a serious contender come March, conference tournaments, so forth, so on. It's going to take Isaacs a little bit to gel to get into the flow of things, but I genuinely think that they'll be top tier team this year. And then the next team that we have is Xavier. Now, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, no. So Xavier is a team where they're returning a good bit. You're returning Devion McKnight and Zach Freemantle. That is their two best players. McKnight is a junior now. Freemantle is a senior. Zach Freemantle is one of the most underrated big men in all of college basketball. I got to watch him play back in high school for Bergen Catholic, and he's a stud. You saw it back then in high school. His development in college, it's better and better. Not many people know who Zach Freemantle is off the fact that he got the year that Xavier was supposed to be that top tier NCAA tournament team, the 3 seed. He got injured at the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, was out for the season, so nobody got to see him on that team. And then last year, obviously, Xavier not being the greatest team in the world, you probably didn't even see him. But they bring in some transfers here from the non-power 5, and Dante Maddox, who is just an absolute scoring machine, averaged over 20 points per game last year for Toledo. Ryan Cronwell, transfer from Indiana State. This is a guy who he got overshadowed in Indiana State last year. I think the hype obviously was around the White Mamba there at Indiana State last year. So, and Brian Cronwell, a little overlooked there, and then Bazel Terror, a transfer from Long Beach State, just a shot blocking machine, just an absolute shot blocking machine. It's going to be hard to score on Xavier inside the paint. A lot of Freemantle and Traore, it's going to be very, very good. And then not to mention that this team is just loaded off the bench. John Kugley transferring in from Oklahoma. Jerome Hunter transferring in from Florida, defensive machine. Marcus Foster transferring in from Furman. When you have a guy averaging 18 points per game last season coming off your bench, it's going to be a very, very good team.
Yeah. You basically took the words out of my mouth here. You know how I am with mid-major basketball and how I love to watch that. Last year I got the opportunity to see Traore play in person. Not in person, but like on TV all the time. Late nights working third shift, you know what I mean? It's 12 o'clock at night. That's the only game on. Seeing Traore play, he just brings another part to the game that Big East, yeah, you got the big men. But the defense that Traore is going to bring is insane. And his size, he's like, I don't know how to explain it. He's built. Like, he's like not your average center. Like, he got a lot of meat. He's kind of like a...
He's built like the dude from Oregon last year.
Covey Cockburn. That's the...
Yeah.
That's
a good comparison.
Prime comparison that I can make. Then, like you said, you look at Marcus Foster coming off the bench. I never thought I'd say that for any college basketball team that got Marcus Foster. I think there will be a position battle by the second week for Marcus Foster to start. But like you said, Xavier, great team. Zach Freemantle. I'm basically just going off what you're going off of, and from the looks of it, they're going to be top, like you said, these top 4 teams in the Big East, all interchangeable. So I'm right there with you. Who we got next? Then we got Marquette.
Marquette, the Golden Eagles, it's a team that lost their 2 best players in Tyler Kolek and Osei Ighodaro. It's devastating blows. Lucky for Marquette, though, they return everybody else. You're bringing back Stevie Mitchell to play the point guard. You're bringing back Cam Jones, who's an absolute scorer. You're bringing back Chase Ross, who can score. David Joplin and Ben Gold rounding out at the center position. Ben Gold was the backup center for Iguodala last year. He was kind of the opposite of Iguodala. Iguodala could not shoot. He was a paint guy. He was defense, and in that paint, Ben Gold, a little different this year that they're going to have a center that's going to be able to stretch the floor. I think that's going to benefit them for sure. But a lot of people think Marquette is going to be the same team they were last year. I don't think so. I think those losses are they're big, and that's why I have them ranked fourth in the Big East. I don't think that they're going to. I think there's a chance that they could win the Big East. I just think it's out of the teams that we just talked. I think they're definitely the slimmest. And then not to mention they do have Sean Jones returning from injury. I think he could potentially be the sixth man of the year coming off the bench for Marquette.
Yeah, just bad second. I think Stevie Mitchell, for Marquette to be successful this year, Stevie Mitchell's really gonna have to step into that Tyler Kolek-esque role where he can feed the ball, move the ball. Shout out Redding, by the way. Shout out Stevie Mitchell. Love the kid, good baller. But he gotta step up and take Tyler Kolek's spot and fill his shoes. Now, can he do it? Yes, he can do it. We both know he can do it. He did in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It was a baller. He has been there for 2 years. This is his third year now. So I think this is his year where he actually can prove himself, step up. Cam Jones is going to be their leading scorer. We all know this. It's just he needs help. And Stevie Mitchell is that guy that can provide that help. And I'm excited to see Joplin in there too with more of a role now that Iguodala is gone. It's going to be them three that are going to have to carry this team this year. Can they do it? Yes. Will they do it? Shaka Smart can make it happen. One thing about Marquette, they always have good defense. And that's something that they're going to have to rely on a lot this year. Very similar to Virginia. I think Cam Jones, this is his year. So, top 3 for Marquette. That's what I got.
This is where it starts to differentiate here between me and you after the top four. So I'll let you go over your number 5, and then I will say where they are in my rankings, and then I'll go over them.
Yeah, yes, and my number 5, I got Villanova. Will the old Villanova team be back? No, not yet. But they are rebuilding. Now, they did just lose TJ Bamba and Justin Moore, but they still have Eric Dixon, Jordan Longino. Transfer-wise, they got Jameer Brickus from LaSalle. That kid is a straight baller, and Wooga Poplar coming in as well. I expect Villanova to be middle of the pack. I expect them to hang with teams and pull off upsets. I think that they'll be a solid team in the Big East for beating up on the lower level teams. When they get to playing against your UConns, stuff like that, they'll hang with them, but do I think they'll win? Probably not. It's hard for me to say. Jameer Brickus coming in is a game changer because they have a legit ball handler this year. And seeing him work with Eric Dixon, they had their secret scrimmage. The box score got released. They played Penn State. They beat them by like 5. But Eric Dixon had damn near a triple-double in that. And I think that they have a lot to build off of. And when they get gelled together, I think Villanova is going to be elite.
So Villanova, for me, I have them ranked 7th in my power rankings. Like you said, I think they're middle of the pack team, and I think they're closer to the middle. There's 11 teams in the Big East, I believe, 11 or 12. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I have Villanova 7th, and it has nothing to do with the team itself. I think the roster is great for sure. You got 2 4-stars and Josiah Mosley and Matthew Hodge coming off the bench. I think that's going to help. I think that's definitely going to help them. Eric Dixon, we haven't seen him step up to that next level yet, but I think the potential is there for him to step up to the next level. I think you know what you're going to get from Wooga Poplar and Jameer Brickus. I think that backcourt is excellent. But in my personal opinion, they're 7th in my rankings because I don't think Kyle Neptune is a good coach. I do not think Kyle Neptune is a good coach whatsoever, and I think it's shown because, I mean, he's had talent. Like, the last 2 years, Villanova's had a talented basketball team, and they haven't even made the NCAA tournament since Jay Wright has retired. I personally think this is Kyle Neptune's make or break year, and if they're not in the tournament I think he's gone. I think his job is absolutely gone if they don't make the tournament. So I have them as a bubble team and seventh in the Big East. I think they're one of those teams that's going to end up being last four in, first four out.
Yeah. If they play to their potential, hands down, they're getting in that large bid. But
I could
they
see that. I
they
definitely
all
could see
have
that
to
for sure.
they have to gel together, and that's the big thing with this transfer portal that we talk about all the time. Is on paper you could have the best team. Look at Arkansas last year. You could have the best team on paper, but when it comes time to play, you can just shit the bed, and we see it all the time. But I think this might be an exception this year, and I'm excited to see Brickus play in the Big East.
So am I. I'm very excited to see Jameer Brickus play Power Five basketball because from watching him in high school, this kid he's an NBA talent. He is an NBA talent that probably nobody's ever heard of before, and I can't wait for the scouts to get to see him.
Exactly. Yep. Do, do, do. And then your number five team, St. John's.
Indeed, St. John's is a team that is it's they were up and coming, and I think they finally got. I think they have a team this year to where they could finish in fifth. Now, in my opinion, I have them at fifth. I think you could switch St. John's or my number six, which is Georgetown. We'll get to that in a minute. I think you could flip flop them either or. I do think St. John's has the slighter edge here. They bring in a very, very, very highly rated transfer who was also in the Big East last year in Kadari Richmond. Kadari Richmond he's going to be the star of this team. He's absolutely going to be the star of this team. He's going to be their leading scorer. He's going to This team is going to be built through Kadari Richmond. If they are going to go to the NCAA tournament, if they're going to finish fifth in the Big East, it's going to be on Kadari Richmond's back. And then off the bench, they do have a great backup point guard in Simeon Wilcher, sophomore guard. I honestly think you can maybe start him over Devion Smith. I think he was great talent last year, but I can understand why you'd want to bring him over off the bench. But I think Kadari Richmond is the X factor to St. John's being this top tier team that we all think they can be this year.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I Kadari Richmond is so fun to watch. He reminds me of Anthony Edwards a lot in many aspects because of the hustle standpoint. That kid gets back on defense. He's always trying to get rebounds. He's always trying to feed the ball. I'm very excited to see what St. John's has to offer this year. They got Aaron Scott in. He's a transfer from North Texas, and that kid can hoop too. And I'm very excited to see what Patino can cook up this year. And I don't want to say his job's on the line because of his name and everything that he does, but his job might be on the line because he's had years. He's at what? This is his what? Second year, third year?
I believe, yeah, this is his second year there. If there wasn't so much chaos in at in the tournaments last year, not the NCAA tournament, but the conference tournaments. If there wasn't so much chaos in those conference tournaments, St. John's would have been in the NCAA tournament. I think we know that, but it was the conference tournaments last year were just pandemonium. I mean, NC State winning the ACC could be the reason that St. John's even didn't get in.
Yeah. Yep. Right. Like you said, they got a good team. It's just if Kadari Richmond would. I don't like saying this, but if something would happen to Kadari Richmond, this team would be in some deep trouble.
Yes, it would.
But I think they got a good squad, and I'm excited to see what they have. Then what do you got? You got Georgetown at
My number six team, I have the Georgetown Hoyas. So you have St. John's at six. I have Georgetown at six. I'm a little higher on Georgetown than I think a lot of people are. I think it's mostly off the fact of the head coach. I think head coach, he's a great coach. He knows how to rebuild teams. And I really think that they hit the transfer portal pretty well pretty well, and I think they're bringing in also some great guys, great freshmen as well. So Georgetown going to be led at point guard by Malik Mack, a transfer from Harvard. Probably you never heard of him. I doubt many of you sit down and watch Ivy League basketball when there's other stuff happening. But Malik Mack, he's a scorer. He's a scorer, and he's going to be next to Jaden Epps. And Jaden Epps, last year, he he could break out. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for this kid to break out. The potential is there. He couldn't break out in Illinois. He had a decent season last year. I think he could really have a great season this year. And then the big transfer they brought in, Micah Peavy from TCU. This is just going to be a great veteran forward to have. This is just a typical guy that you just want to have on your team. He does all the little things, rebounds, plays defense. He can even score a little bit. And then the guy in Jordan Burks. Jordan Burks transferred from Kentucky. Didn't play much last year at Kentucky. The potential is there, though. I think he has the chance to make a star. And then Thomas Sorber, a freshman, 4-star, played at Archbishop Ryan. We saw him play in person last year. He is a monster of a center. He's one of the best shot blocking centers I have ever watched play in person. He is going to be a star. The question is, though, is he going to be a star right away? I don't think so, to be honest. I think he's going to need some time to develop there for sure. But I definitely think he's going to be the starter. And then Keon Morley, a 4-star coming off the bench, and then Curtis Williams, a transfer from Louisville, which Louisville got a lot of hate last year. But Curtis Williams was one of the brighter spots of that Louisville team. I think he could help out Georgetown tremendously.
Yeah, you didn't miss here. Malik Mack averaged 18 points per game at Harvard, and I don't want to say it, but Ivy League basketball, they were on the come up last year. Like, they had their top 3 teams. They easily could have made the tournament. Like, Princeton, you got Princeton, Harvard,
Cornell.
Cornell. And they produce a lot of talent. And you see it, we'll get through it as we go through the teams here. There's a lot of kids that hit that portal that were from Ivy League schools. And when I looked into their stats, they're averaging 15, 16 points per game. And that's hard to do at any level of the sport. And I'm excited to watch Malik Mack play in Big East. And then, like you said, Micah Peavy, he's an animal. Thomas Sorber, we saw him play. It's proof is in the pudding. The kid's a monster. He damn near had double-double in blocks and points when we saw him.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add from Georgetown. I got them in my rankings at 9 just because of the depth of the Big East this year and how talented that it is. But they easily could be interchangeable with any of my, I guess it would be 6 through 11. Let's see here. And then you have, who we go next? Providence. You got them at 8. I got them
We
at
both
7.
have Providence at 8, I believe.
We do? I got them at 7. I got them right
Yeah, you do. You got them at 7. I got them at 8.
Yeah.
Because I got Villanova at 7, so yeah.
Yeah, I think Providence this year will be the hit or miss team in the Big East. No more Devin Carter. No more Josh Odora. They both also combined for 35 of their points every game last season. They still return Bryce Hopkins and the help of Wesley Cardeau Jr. from Chicago State. Chicago State was awful last year. I'm not going to lie. But this kid was the only reason why they were even competitive or a D1 school last year. And look, you can call me sick, but I love watching mid-major basketball. There's nothing better than it to me. I love watching these quote-unquote shitty schools play because there's talent in there. But they get Wesley Cardeau Jr., and then they get Jabir Abdur-Rahim from Georgia. All these kids scored 10-plus points per game at their respective schools. Bensley Joseph, he's coming in from Miami. He will be a key player for them this year as well to their success. Like I said, Providence this year, either they are going to be very good or very bad. There's going to be no really middle of the pack for them. I really am excited to watch Bryce Hopkins come back. He injured his knee last year, uh, but he's coming back off that injury, and I think they might have something going up there.
I think you hit it right on the spot. Providence, I have them ranked eighth off of the fact that Bryce Hopkins is coming off a very serious knee injury, and we don't know if Bryce Hopkins is going to be able to be the same. And that's why I'm not higher on Providence. That's why I have them ranked eighth in my rankings. I think that they're a team that's, like you said, they're going to be hit or miss. I like the transfers they did bring in. I think they brought in some very good transfers. Corey Ford Jr., a young star coming off the bench, hasn't really hit his stride yet, but could hit his stride. But it's kind of like St. John's. I think Providence they're going to be built around Bryce Hopkins, and if that knee isn't fully healed and it shows, and he's not the same player, you're going to see Providence probably even lower than this eighth spot. But I got them finishing eighth in the Big East, and I think this is where teams are going to miss the NCAA tournament. So I don't think Providence will make the NCAA tournament. I think the Big East will get either 6 or 7 teams in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be one big game that comes down to everything, and that's going to be St. John's and Providence. Whenever they play towards the end of the season, I think that game is going to be the standalone game where the winner of that is going to end up getting into the tournament. And I hope that this happens in the conference tournament because there's nothing better than that. Like,
Hmm.
your season's
Yep.
on the line, regardless. Like, it's just you go all out. And that's the beautiful thing about basketball than any other sport, I would say, is it all comes down to that. And the tournament's so big that anything can happen. You see it every year.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Who you got next? Butler? Want to hit
Yep.
Butler
My
next?
number 9 team is Butler. Your number 8 team is DePaul. So if you want to touch on DePaul first.
Yeah, I can hit DePaul. So so DePaul is one of the many teams that we'll get to where they have lost their whole team. There's nobody returning, um, but they hit the transfer portal hard. They didn't really recruit that much. They got 6 players coming in from mid-major schools that have all dropped 10 or more points per game. Now I do expect those numbers to drop because the caliber of conference that they're coming into. But I still think that with that type of what's the word I'm looking for? With that type of what's the word? I still think it takes a lot to drop that at a collegiate level, whether D1, D2, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, it's gonna drop. They still aren't gonna be as good as like their older teams when they used to be really good. But I'm gonna go over their roster real quick. So they got Jacob Nair coming in. He's a transfer from Coastal Carolina. Averaged 15 points per game last year. Then they got Layden Blocker. He's gonna be their starting shooting guard. Transfer from Arkansas. Didn't really touch the court last year, but that's well warranted because of the talent that was down there. CJ Gunn, he's a transfer from Indiana. Then you got JJ Trainer, transfer from Louisville. David Skogman from Davidson. And then their new coach, Chris Holtman, from Ohio State. Now that's going to be very interesting because he is a great, great coach. So I think DePaul is going to be a sleeper team this year, where if they can get everything going, and the transfers start linking and doing everything the right way, that they can make some noise. Not gonna be like top 4 or anything, but they can make some noise this year.
Yeah, I've got DePaul right back at the bottom of the Big East Conference, right where they've been the last how many years so now. I see. It's a lot of transfers, and I think these teams that have a lot of transfers, I do think that they can gel and improve throughout the season. I think they're definitely going to struggle to start the season with any transfer team, but I think Chris Holtman is a great coach, and I think Chris Holtman can rebuild this team. But I'm sorry, you're not rebuilding this team off of transfers. You need to hit the young recruiting, and you need to recruit some of these kids out of high school and get these young guns in here and try to develop them, along with hitting the transfer portal as well. I got DePaul finishing dead last. this year in the Big East. I just don't see it. I think it's a full rebuilding year, and that's why I have them finishing last.
I guess I guess my question is if you're um, if you are Chris Holtman, right? You're just coming in, new coach. You get all these transfers in. I feel like this year you gotta hit the Chicago recruiting scene hard
Yeah,
because DePaul, they're the
absolutely.
only school. I think they're the only school that's like in Chicago, besides like your Loyola
DePaul's in
Chicago
Ohio.
and like shit like that, huh?
DePaul's
DePaul?
in Ohio.
It's not in Chicago?
No, it's in Ohio.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, DePaul's in Ohio.
That was in Chicago. It's in Chicago.
It is in Chicago. Okay, I'm just dumb. My bad.
Yeah, nah, nah.
Could have swore it was in Ohio, but maybe not.
but
Maybe not.
but but yeah, if you're Chris Holtman, you gotta hit that Chicago recruiting scene hard because there's so many talented hoopers that are in Chicago, but they just get out of there. But you hit that recruiting scene hard, you can turn that whole program around.
Absolutely. My number nine team is the Butler Bulldogs. That's who I have at number nine. You have Georgetown at number nine, so I mean we kind of already went over Georgetown, but why do you have Georgetown so low?
I just think that there's a lot of moving parts with that team. I think Malik Mack and Epps, you know what you're gonna get out of them, right?
Hmm.
But outside of them two, you got Swarber coming in. It's gonna take him a while to get used to playing at that level. So I'm not expecting too much out of him, and he's gonna get ate alive by the centers in the Big East. And I don't want to say it like that because we watched him play. The kid's a monster, but
Hmm.
he was playing against I forget who we saw him play against, but that don't matter.
Unionville.
Unionville, yeah,
I saw him play many, 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 many of times, but the game that we were at together, we saw him play Unionville.
yeah, we saw him play Unionville. Um, it's just hard for me to see him hanging in there with the Traores, the like Caravans, stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's hard for me to
Yeah.
see them hanging with the big men in the Big East. So that's why I got them so low, is because I look at all these other teams and the big men that they have, like Eric Dixon. You're telling me that this Eric Dixon's been for Villanova for how long? Forever. You're telling me that Sorber's gonna be able to guard him fresh out of high school? It's hard. It's hard for me to see that. So until they prove me different, look, we'll come back to this. Let's go after like week 2, week 3. We can
Hmm.
re-categorize everything after we see how they play, and then
Hmm.
we'll come back to it. I got them at that low because I don't know what to expect. So we'll come back to it.
Understandable, understandable. My number nine is Butler. I believe you have Butler at number 10. So my number nine is Butler. Butler is just a team. I feel like they just can't get over the hump. I feel like they have just a mid team every single year at this point. I feel like they really, really, really need to just they just got to figure things out here. I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know if it's the school not giving them maybe some NIL money. But they got if they want to compete in the Big East, they need help, and they're gonna need some help. They brought in the transfer Colby King from Tulane. He's all right. Jamie Kaiser from Maryland didn't really play last year. Potential's there, but other than that, Butler is just kind of running back the same team from last year, and I just don't think that this team from last year is going to be able to compete with these teams in the Big East this year, and that's why I got them at number nine.
Yeah, I without Posh Alexander and DJ Davis, that's gonna hurt that team a lot because
Hmm.
Posh Alexander, don't get me wrong, little guy, played like he was like 7 foot, but he was their fire starter, and without that, last year Butler probably would have lost damn near every game, and that's being generous. Like, but like you said, they got Patrick McCaffrey coming in. Yes, he'll probably make a difference and get a few points, but it's hard for me to see this team doing anything. They're always good for an upset in the season. They're always good for at least one.
At least one.
At
They do
least one.
normally pull one upset.
But I think this year might be the year where where I don't think that they get one. I just it's hard for me to see it. They're horrible. Like they got nobody like on this roster that like would even start for another team. That's you got Jamie Kaiser. He transferred from Maryland. Don't get me wrong. He can play ball, but it's really hard for me to see this team being competitive in the Big East.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And then your last place team and my 10th place team right in front of DePaul is Seton Hall. And really, I don't think there's much to say about Seton Hall other than the fact that this is just a rebuilding year. In my opinion, just like DePaul, this is just another rebuilding team. It's why I have them a little ahead of DePaul. I just think that they're a little more ahead in the rebuilding process than DePaul. That's why I have them 10th. And DePaul at 11, I assume you have them in last place just off of that fact as well.
Yeah, I look at it, they lost. They legit lost everybody. They lost four of their five guys,
Yep.
four of their five starters. Um, like we talked about how Kadari Richmond played such a big role in that team. Um, Without him, they're kind of screwed. Now there is one player I do want to highlight for this team. You got Zion Harmon coming in from Bethune Cookman. When I say this kid can hoop, he can hoop. It's just he's gonna have to do everything. um, I just it's hard for me to see them being competitive as well. I That's all I really got. Shaheen Holloway is gonna have to pull off some St. Peter's type of run for them to do anything.
Yeah, no, this is a bad team. There's nothing else to it. This is a bad team. Zion Harmon is going to be the life of that team, and if he gets hurt, my lord, this could potentially be
The
one of the
worst team.
worst teams in all of Power Five.
Yep.
This could be.
Yep.
So,
So I know we did our power rankings, right? But sometimes it might differ from who we think's gonna win the Big East. So throw the power rankings out. Do you still got UConn winning the Big East?
yeah, absolutely. Until somebody takes down the big dog UConn, I can't pick against UConn. It's as simple as that. And Bob Hurley, not Danny Hurley. Danny Hurley. No, yeah, Danny Hurley. Bob Hurley's the coach of Arizona State, I think, right? Am I getting it mixed up? Dan Hurley. I'm pretty sure Dan Hurley is the coach of UConn and Bob Hurley is the coach of Arizona State.
Yeah, I
Could be
think that's
getting them mixed up, but that's all right. He's the best coach in college basketball right now, and until somebody proves that they can take him down, I'm not going to pick against him. I do think UConn wins the Big East again.
gotcha. Yeah, yeah, I got it between UConn and Creighton. That's my two. I mean, flip flop them either or. But yeah, I think UConn wins it as of now. Like I said, we'll touch back on this in about 2 weeks after initial reactions to the first weeks here. Um, Next, our
On to
lo
the
and
Big
behold
Ten,
Big Ten.
and
What the hell is
I
going
am
on
gonna
here?
I am gonna shock. Oh, we disagreed a lot on this Big Ten, so
Yeah, what the fuck?
this is gonna be very, very, very interesting because you have your last place team is the most craziest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. This is unbelievable. Your last place
That's
team.
crazy.
I, I, I I'll start off with my number one because it is a wild number one. But man, do I ever believe in the Ohio State Buckeyes to win the Big Ten this year.
Penn State
I
wins, baby.
absolutely love this Ohio State basketball team to take over the Big Ten this year. Well, maybe not take over. It'll be a very competitive conference. Very competitive conference. I think that they're going to come out and they are going to win this conference. This is a team that it stands down. Just come out and say it. The transfers will decide if this team is good or not. The transfers will decide if this team is a good team or if they're just going to be another mid to bottom team. You return Bruce Thornton, absolute star point guard. You get Meaty Johnson Jr. from South Carolina. He's an absolute star. Micah Parrish from San Diego State, absolute star. Sean Stewart from Duke, transfer from Duke, a guy who really didn't get an opportunity at Duke. I'm very interested to see the opportunity he can do here at Ohio State. But then you got the 7'3" shot blocking big man in Aaron Bradshaw, the transfer from Kentucky. I love this Ohio State team, and I think they bring every single aspect to the table. And that's why I think that they're going to win the Big Ten. They can defend, they can shoot, they can score at the rim. I think they have the perfect roster built to win the Big Ten.
You forgot one key piece there. You forgot the man from Stanford, Quez Glover.
They do have Quez Glover expected to come off the bench, yes.
And I love Quez Glover, man. He's so good. He averaged 15 points per game last year, and that's not so he's going to play a big role in this team because he's going to get a lot of playing time because that nobody's just going to play a starting five for 40 minutes a game. You're going to need those role players to come in, make plays, and set up the starting five to win games. You look at this team, Michi Johnson finally getting a role on a team where he can be a genuine two. Last year, it was ISO. Talon Cooper was the one for South Carolina. And don't get me wrong, he was a great point guard. But there were so many times where they relied on Michi Johnson to just ISO and score. With this team, it opens him up so much more to off-ball movement, the screens, getting out there. Micah Parrish, setting screens for him, getting open. There's so much opportunity with this team, and there's a Swiss Army knife. Like, if Michi Johnson ain't going to do it, who's going to do it? You got Bruce Thornton. You got Quez Glover. You got Micah Parrish. You got so forth, so on. And that's what I love about this team. Now, granted, I do have them at 7, just because you don't know what you're going to get out of transfers. And
understandable.
I look at the rosters that I got ranked above them and who they have. They all have been proven. There's a few of these players for Ohio State that haven't been proven, like Sean Stewart you were talking about. We haven't seen him genuinely play against competition. So it's hard for me to put them up higher than what I have them, but we'll come back to that down the road. So you want to hit my number 1?
I will hit your number 1 because your number 1 is my number 2.
Okay, so I got the Indiana Hoosiers. This is probably the team I'm most excited to see out of the Big Ten because they lost Khalil Ware and Xavier Johnson, which were both arguably their best players last year, which made big shoes to fill. Then you look at their transfer portal pickups, and then when you look at these pickups, you're like, holy shit. They got Miles Rice coming in from Washington State. So he'll take over for Khalil Ware off rip. You watched him play last year. He does everything. He did everything for that team. You got Omar Ballo coming in from Arizona, the center. Absolute monster. Big man. He's going to cause a lot of problems in the Big Ten this year. Caden Carlisle, dead-eye shooter, Stanford. It's like setting up a perfect lineup. Langdon Halton from Bellarmine. Luke Good, you talk about another shooter, Illinois. That kid was knocked down all year last season. And then you look at who they returned also. Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, Trey Galloway, and Gabe Cupps, right? Is he still?
Gabe Cupps is still there, yep.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the depth on this team, and I think that's what separates them from a lot of the teams in the Big Ten. So I'm very excited to see how they perform. This is where I think they're number 1. It's their depth. They can play any of these guys, and they could go in, start, score 10 to 15 points a game. So what do you think, Kyle?
I think so. Indiana, before I had done all the research and everything, Indiana, who was my pick to win the Big Ten, until I did all my research and I changed it to Ohio State. I think this team is another team. They want to play big. I mean, they want to play big. Their projected starting lineup is McBako at the 3, which honestly, I think they could run into issues. If this is their starting lineup, I think they could definitely run into issues. I think that that they're definitely going to have to mix some of those bench guys in, and you're going to have to see maybe Malik Renew or Trey Galloway come off the bench because if this is their starting lineup, man, the shooting is going to be they're going to have a problem shooting because Miles Rice, 25% 3-point shooter last year. Trey Galloway, 26% 3-point shooter last year. Umar Ballo cannot shoot. Malik Renew, 19% 3-point shooter last year. And Mackenzie McBako, 22% 3-point shooter last year. So I think Indiana, I hope this isn't. I don't want to say I hope this isn't their starting lineup because this is still a very good team. But I think that they're definitely going to have to mix things up here at the beginning of the season to try and figure out what lineups work best together. Because you got to get some shooting to be able to spread the floor better with this team.
Yeah, I think this is where Caden Carlisle and Luke Good are going to have a very crucial role. They'll be kind
Hmm.
of like Miller Kopp when he played at Indiana a few years ago with Trace Jackson Davis. It'll be a very similar role to him, and where you it doesn't look like you're doing a lot, but you're doing a lot. You're gonna be out on that 3 point line camping, they'll drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick. You're gonna get so many opportunities to shoot the ball. Uh, I think one of those two will end up starting for the sake of their offense. Other than that, their defense. You look at that lineup that you had as their starting lineup. That
Hmm.
defense will be insane. Uh, but yeah, I like the depth they have is can make them a championship contender. So
Absolutely.
that's why I got Indiana number one. And then what do you want to hit? Number three? Because
You
we got the
go.
same.
You're number two. Your number two is different than my number two.
Yeah, I got UCLA at number two. You got them at number seven.
I do have UCLA down at number seven. So pretty much, kind of flip flopped here. I have Ohio State higher up than UCLA pretty much, and
Yeah,
I have UCLA down where you have UCLA up.
yeah. I see a lot of opportunity for them to be successful. Their only loss, really, that player that's any good was Adam Bona. He went to the Sixers. Uh, I look up who they picked up in the transfer portal, and the depth that they have is the same as Indiana. They can go 8 man rotation, 9 man rotation. They picked up Tyler Bordeaux from Oregon State and Dominic Harris from Loyola Marymount. Dominic Harris last year, like I said, I'm a freak. I watch the late night mid major games all the time. Dominic Harris was one of them guys that I watched, and you watch him play, and the caliber that he plays at is so high. He's hard to stop. He's fun to watch. Uh, so you're gonna have him at the one, or it's gonna be vice versa. You got Sky Clark from Louisville coming in, so you can switch those two out at the 1 and 2 all the time. Uh, so those players are the ones that I'm most excited to watch. Uh, they're all gonna play a crucial role in the lineup. Got William Kyle coming in from San Diego State, averaged 13 points per game and 7 rebounds a game. So I mean, UCLA is going to be deep. They're going to be contending for a championship by the end of the year. They got the vets, the depth, and the youth. They got recruits coming in. If they stay healthy, I expect to see them in March.
Yeah, I have UCLA down off the fact that I just need to see them prove it. I really need to see them prove it. Dylan Andrews is a guy that his potential is there, but we haven't seen him go out and grab it yet. And I personally, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. And I think Dylan Andrews, I think he's the big question mark here. Sky Clark, you kind of know what you're going to get from him. He can play out of control at sometimes, but I think when you're in that Nick Cronin team, there's no such thing as playing out of control. You start playing out of control, you're on the bench. I think Sky Clark would rather be on the floor than on the bench there. So I think this team. I can see why people are high on them. For me, I just got to see them prove it. I think the interior is a little weak, in my personal opinion. I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be an issue for UCLA. I think their guards are going to be able to get the job done, but the question is going to be, can the interior hold up with the rest of the Big Ten big men that are in this conference?
And then Sebastian Mack. He came from South Carolina, right? He was the big man out there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here's where I would like to see UCLA mix things up a bit. What if they went Sebastian Mack and William Kyle both on the court at the same time. Like that would solve a lot of problems. You get rid of Tyler Bedell, and you run those two, you would have two big men on the court where it'd be very hard to rebound. First of all, second of
Hmm.
all, that pick and roll game you could run with the switches and everything that would open up Sky Clark, Dylan Andrews, Kobe Johnson. All of them would be open all the time. So I'd be excited to see how they switch things up this year. But like you said, they got great depth, weak interior. We'll see how their coaches mix it up.
We both had the same number three, as we both got the Oregon Ducks finishing at number three, and I think a lot of people have them finishing towards the top but not winning the conference. Oregon is a team. They bring back Jackson Shellstad. I mean, he's a star. He's a star. He's going to be a sophomore this year. You bring in the transfer T.J. Bamba. You're bringing back Kwan Evans Jr. They did lose Deontay from last year, which is it's a big loss for Oregon. I'm not going to lie. And I think the only issue with this Oregon Ducks team is that there's not much depth on this team. The depth is very youthful, and normally when you have a youthful depth, that normally does not translate into the best team. But I think these starters are just I think they're good enough to be able to stay out of foul trouble, and I think they're good enough to be a really good team, and I think that's why I have them up at number three to finish number third in the Big Ten.
Yeah. I look at their starting lineup. You got Brandon Angel coming in from Stanford. Like you said, T.J. Bamba. Another player that they did get in is Supreme Cook, and he's coming over from Georgetown. I think that gives him a seven-man rotation. Raheem Moss, he played for Toledo, averaged like
Yep.
20 points per game. Kid was a monster. But we seen this like at Penn State last year with Raquandis Mitchell. Bro averaged what, like 22 a game at University of Kansas City, and he came in, he didn't even touch the court. I'm excited to see how they perform. TJ Bamba, I don't know. He didn't do much last year for me, but I think it's a good fit for him, and Oregon is gonna compete for a Big Ten, possibly championship. They're gonna make it to the semis, quarters. They're gonna make it deep, and they're gonna make it in March. It's just a matter of how far they can go with a seven-man rotation.
Yeah, this is a team high potential, but could fall on their face. There's a chance they could fall on their face. I don't see it happening though. I think they're too talented to fall on their face, and that's why I do have them as high as I do.
So, looking next, I got Rutgers
My
at four.
number four.
You got
Yeah, you
Michigan.
go first. You go
You want
first.
me to go first?
Yes.
Um, there's a valid. You probably know why I got Rutgers at four, right?
I can understand it. I have Rutgers at eight, and I'll go over why I have them at eight after you
Gotcha.
go.
Yeah. They lost a lot of talent, and but they also brought in so much talent. I look at their two top five recruits from the ESPN 100: Ace Bailey,
Hmm.
Dylan Harper. I watched them play in that scrimmage, and I know not to overreact to secret scrimmages. You see it all the time. Don't overreact. Don't overreact. Don't overreact. But it's hard for me to overreact when they're dunking on everybody, and just the way they're playing is so unorthodox to the way college basketball has been played in the Big Ten that I can see this being a big problem for every team in there. Um, so, who will run the 4 and 5 for them is your main question, I guess you could say, because you know you got Ace Bailey, you know you got Dylan Harper, um, Zach Martini. He's a center from Princeton. Like I said, we see a lot of these Ivy School kids that are just transferring out this year, and he's a monster. That kid can ball. So I'm excited to see what they have. You got Jamichael Davis and Jeremiah Williams back, but Zach Martini, I can see him starting by week 2, for sure. Like you said, and what you got him as their weak center, Emmanuel Agbole. I can see Martini coming in and stepping up to be that center.
Yeah, no, and the reason I have them down, I reason I have them as a middle of the pack Big Ten team, eighth, is off the fact is there's a chance Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are the entire team. Are they going to be able to get the support from the supporting cast of everybody around Rutgers? Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, they're going to be one and done. They're going to the NBA. I just don't know if everybody around them can help them bring this team up to as high as you have them at number 4, and that's why I have them at number 8. Is I just don't know if the supporting cast can support Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, because
Yeah.
two players can only get you so far.
No, I agree. I agree. But if you're a generational talent and you got two of them on the same team, it's just hard for me to see them getting stopped. But like I said, we'll see. They need one more player on that team to step up this season, and if that happens, Rutgers is by far going to be one of, if not the most dangerous team in the Big Ten.
My number 4 is Michigan. I have Michigan at number 4. I mean, they have not looked good in the last 2 years, but I think this is finally where Michigan's going to get back to their normal form. I think they're going to get back to their normal form. And it starts off. I get it. Brand new head coach coming in, old FAU coach. Is he going to be able to get the job done in year one? I think so. It's a starting lineup that's starting 5 transfers. Trey Donaldson, a transfer from Auburn. Roddy Gale Jr., transfer from Ohio State. Reuben Jones, Danny Wolf, who's a transfer from Yale, a stretch 4. And then Vlad Golden, who is one of the best centers in all of college basketball. And we've seen him throughout FAU, throughout the NCAA tournament. This kid's a monster. The issue with Michigan, and I feel like this is kind of an issue with a lot of Big Ten teams, and I still think because it's an issue with a lot of Big Ten teams that it's not going to hurt them as much in conference play. But I have concerns about the shooting on this team here. I don't think they're going to be a very great shooting team. I think it's going to be more of a drive to the rim type team, post up with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. Danny Wolf is a good 3-point shooter, but besides that, Trey Donaldson was very inconsistent shooting the 3 ball. Roddy Gale Jr. was very inconsistent shooting the 3 ball. So I got Michigan finishing 4th. I think the combination of the old FAU head coach, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I kind of feel bad, but I think him and just mixing with all these transfers, I think it's going to go very well for him. I do think that they're probably going to start slow, just be off the fact of it's a team of 5 transfers. But I think once conference play rolls around, they're going to be gelled and they're going to be one of the best teams in the Big Ten. That's why I got them finishing at number 4.
Yeah, I mean, I don't got them too far behind you. I got them at 6. Uh, no Jawan, no problem. that's what I got written down. I think Golden will have an Edie-esque type of role in the Big Ten this
Mm-hmm.
year, because I look at all the other teams in this conference, and none of the centers in the Big Ten, I think, can compete with Golden. So I think if they can run the offense through him and he can get everything rolling the way that it was at FAU, Michigan, they're gonna struggle with like your big name like Indiana, all them. They're gonna struggle with the big name teams, but like these little teams, there's nobody that's gonna be able to guard them. So they're
Mm.
gonna have to double,
No.
and this is where it comes down to their shooting. Trey Donaldson at Auburn last year, he was a shooter. You leave him open, he's gonna knock it down. So I'm excited to see how Michigan uses him. Roddy Guile, Reuben Jones, both of them, they can hoop. We seen it last year. Like Michigan, they could be. I should have them in my top 5 of the Big Ten, but I got them at 7 because, well, I got them at 6 actually, because of the strength of the teams above them. But like I said, we'll touch back in 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
I got
I'll,
them.
I'll go over my number 5 here first, and then you can go over your number 5 second. This is where I'm lost. So I have Purdue at number 5. I don't know. You can explain where you have them in a moment, but I have Purdue at number 5. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith. This is the best backcourt in all the Big Ten. This is This is a backcourt that's been together. This is going to be their 3rd year together. it's the best backcourt in the Big Ten. And I understand that they lost Zach Edey. I really do. It's a big loss. It's why I have them down here at number 5 and not at the top of the conference. I still think this is a good basketball team, though. You're returning perhaps the best backcourt in the Big Ten. Miles Colvin has a great chance to step up this year and become a more important role in this team, and I think he can fill those shoes. I think it's going to be a breakout year for Trey Kaufman-Renn. I think last year we saw moments where Trey Kaufman-Renn coming off the bench or even playing beside Zach Edey. I mean, he really, 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 really looked good. And then Camden Hyde, he was a bench player last year. He's he's going to have to step in and start this year. He's going to have to step up. The only issue with this Purdue team is going to be their depth. The depth is their only issue off of the fact that it is just it's young. The depth is young on this team, but I think that backcourt led by Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith, I still think Purdue is one of the best teams in the Big Ten.
You know where I got them at.
You have them at quite the number. And that's not even the big shocking. The big shocking one is next, which we'll get to. We'll get to in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. But this is wild. So I still think this is wild where you have Purdue ranked.
I got Purdue at 14 out of 18 in the Big Ten. I think they lost too much for me to even trust them. Their 2 stars that they have back is Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith. They did not hit the transfer portal at all. They didn't pick up anybody. The only recruit in the ESPN 100 they have is Sha'Carri Harris coming in. I do not expect Purdue to do much to anything at all this season. It's hard for me to trust them. I mean, Matt Painter he's a great coach. He always finds ways to get stuff done. But you can't do stuff without a team that you don't have. You know what I mean? Like
Matt Painter is one of the reasons I do trust this team because they return most of their bench depth from last year into starters this year, and Miles Coleman and Trey Kaufman-Renn. And I think that experience is really going to help them on the starting side. And Matt Painter can develop. Matt Painter can develop players. We saw it with Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith. These guys, those 2 weren't ESPN Top 100 recruits. They were 3 stars. They were 3 stars that weren't even in the ESPN Top 100, and now they're the best backcourt in the Big Ten. And that's why I have Purdue still up there at number 5, off of the fact that Matt Painter is just such a good coach.
Yeah, but they don't have Edey to bail them out this year, and they come up.
They don't have Edey to bail them out. That is 100% right. But I think they have had an entire offseason to work without Zach Edey, and I think that they realize the post-Zach Edey era is over. And I think that having that entire offseason to work together, I think that they'll be ready. They'll be ready to take on the next challenge.
But when they come up against a team that's so good defensively, like, I know I don't like using them as a example, but you come up against a Penn State where you got Ace Baldwin and Nick Kern as your 2 defenders guarding those 2. What else do they have?
They have. I mean, like I said, Miles Colvin is gonna have to step up this year. His Miles Colvin can be a star on that team and really help and lead that team. And I think he's going to be one of the X factors that helps them get back to being a better team in the Big Ten.
No, I get it. I see where you're coming from, but I gotta see him do something because it's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to believe in them, but I see where you're coming from. What we got next? We have
you can go over your number 5 next.
Number 5? Okay.
Yeah.
So at number 5, I got USC, and holy hell, our rankings are like opposite of each other here. Where you got them at?
I've got USC at 14. I do not understand the hype around this team whatsoever.
You don't?
I do not understand the hype around this team whatsoever. I understand they got Desmond Claude. He's an NBA prospect. I understand they're bringing in Ogbo from Boise State. I get that. But other than that, like what? And Eric Musselman, new head coach. I get he's a good coach. Other than that, what is the rest of this team? What is it?
Depth. It's the depth, bro. It's the depth. You
I,
got
I understand they're a veteran team, built with a lot of juniors and seniors, besides Desmond Claude, but
you got all
uh,
mid-major
I just
top
don't get it.
scorers coming into one team.
Yeah,
You
and look what happened when Eric Musselman brought all the top scorers into Arkansas. That ended well, didn't it?
it's not it's not even that though. So you got all these top guys coming in. Agbo from Boise State. We watched him play last year. Kid is a monster. You got Nolan coming in from Yale. Kid just knocks down threes. Big white boy. Catch some rebounds, make some threes. And then you look at the recruits they got. Jalen Shelley and Isaiah Elahum. They're both top 100 recruits. I think if USC can stay healthy, this team easily can win the Big Ten. If they stay healthy, they will be a contender by the end of the season. And I don't know where you don't see it. That's what's confusing me. Terrence Williams from Michigan. You got Agba, Williams, Nolan. Those three alone are all 6'8" monsters that can knock down three balls and score. Like, it's hard for me not to put not to put USC in my top six, top seven of the Big Ten.
Yeah, they got to prove it to me because it's just I got to see it to believe it because I am not a believer in USC this year at all. I'm just not.
Damn.
And now this is where things just get completely out of control. My number six. So your number six was Michigan. We already stepped over Michigan. My number six is Illinois, and where you
How?
have Illinois is just disrespectful.
How?
It is disrespectful at the
How?
highest level. This is going to be. It's not even arguably. This team has the best offense in the Big Ten.
How? What are you
This team
talking
has the best offense in the Big Ten. You're bringing in Kylan Boswell, who is an absolute shooter, transfer from Arizona. Kasparis, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Jakuzinsis. He is an NBA. He's a top 5 NBA draft pick. He is projected to go top 5 in the NBA draft. This kid is a star. Trey White, Ben Humerchis, and Tomislav Ivasic, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of him, but this guy has potential like no other. Here's the thing. This team can shoot the lights out. Every single person on this team can step behind the arc and shoot the three. You got the 5-star freshman Will Riley coming off the bench. This is the number one offense in the Big Ten. But here's the issue. Here's the issue with them, and here's why I have them at number 6. This team might average 90, 100 points a game, but they might let up 90, 100 points a game. These kids cannot play defense to save their lives. I mean, that is the issue with Illinois. But to have them where you have Illinois it's disrespectful. It is absolutely disrespectful.
Yeah, I got them in last.
It is unbelievable.
They have
I
nothing.
saw that and I think my jaw went through the floor.
There's no
Went
depth. They
through
have
the
no
floor.
depth at all.
A lot of
You get
young
out of their
talent.
6-man rotation, they suck. It's hard for me to put trust in them. Like, I don't know. Like you said, they don't play defense. They have no depth. They do have 2 top 30 recruits, and Will Riley and Morez Johnson. But other than that, like it like I said, I don't have much on Illinois. There's a reason why they're ranked outside the top 25 to start the season.
There is a reason, and I can understand that off of the fact of how many players that left and how many new players are here. I
They
can
have
completely
nobody. No,
understand
the
that.
only person they have returning from last year is Ty Rogers, and Ty Rogers ain't even starting.
Ty Rogers is coming off the bench. Ty Rogers he'll be the 7th, 8th guy off the bench behind the 2 5-stars that are coming off the bench.
It's hard for me to trust this. I don't.
This offense is going to be unbelievable, but they got if they want to win a Big Ten championship, they got to figure out on the defensive end. But this team, it's unbelievable what they're going to be able to do on the offensive end of the court this year. That's why I got them at number 6.
Agree to disagree. What we got? We got there.
We already went over our number 7, so I already went over my number 8, so why don't you go ahead and go over your number 8? My
Yeah,
number 7 was UCLA, and my number 8 was Rutgers.
yeah, I got Nebraska at number 8. You got where you got Nebraska at?
I got number a little behind. I got them at number 11.
Okay, so we aren't too far off on this. Um, as we know, they lost Tamanaga. He he was their 3-point guy, their scoring threat last year. March, April, March Madness legend, guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, the thing about this Nebraska team this year, the experience that they will have is absolutely insane. So all their players coming in are all seniors, I believe. All the transfers that they got in are all seniors. So you got your returning players: Bryce Williams, Rink Mass, Jawan Gary. They'll be great fits for these guys they brought in. Andrew Morgan from North Dakota State coming in. You got Rolly Worcester from Utah coming in. And I think those two will complement this team so well to a point where, yeah, they aren't going to have your superstar players like last year. You had Terrence Shannon Jr. They aren't going to have a Terrence Shannon Jr. on their team. You got Rolly Worcester. You got Andrew Morgan. You're going to be like, who the hell are these guys? But the thing is with Nebraska is they play team ball. They're all seniors, and I expect them to provide leadership that will be unmatched this year. And that's why I got them so high, is because they're going to be able to compete with just about anybody this season.
Yeah, and I can understand why you have them that high. I think the two teams that I have in front of them, I just like their rosters a little bit better. But Raleigh Worcester, I really like that pickup for them. I think he was a very good player at Utah last year. I think he can really benefit, and I think Bryce Williams can turn into the Nebraska superstar. Like you said, they didn't have a superstar last year, really, but I think Bryce Williams has that potential to turn into the superstar. And the power forward, Jawan Gary, I really like Jawan Gary. He's just tough, physical guy, and he's going to beat you up on the inside, and he's going to be physical, and he's going to make you uncomfortable. I really like Jawan Gary. I think the offense is definitely going to be there for this team. Are they going to be able to stop in the on the interior though? Because Jawan Gary, he's going to be playing the floor, but are they going to be able to have a five that can stop on the interior, stop the Umar Balos, stop the Vlad Goldens? That's the question mark really with Nebraska, and that's why I have them at number 11 in my rankings.
Also, I know Craig's going to listen to this. I know he would kill us if we didn't mention Connor Season. Connor
Yep.
Season transferring
Yeah.
from Wisconsin. That's our boy. We met him before. Cool guy, down to earth guy. He is going to be the shooter for Nebraska this year. So I don't want to say there's a lot of pressure on him, but if he's having off nights, then Nebraska's going to struggle. But when he's on, this Nebraska team may be one of the best teams in the country. They got Braxton Mia at the center, transfer from Washington. I think Nebraska is going to be a contender with the experience and everything that they have. That's why I got them ranked so high.
When Penn State's got a big game, we got to bring good old Craig Day on the podcast. People got to meet Craig.
Yeah, people want Craig.
People need to meet Craig.
All right, what we got next? Where you got?
So my number nine's different than your number nine. I'll let you go first.
Okay, yeah. At number 9, I got Penn State. Now, this might be kind of homerish, I guess you could say of me, because I enjoy watching Penn State basketball. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I enjoy watching them play. Uh, this year's team will all be based off the production of Yannick Niederhauser. He's a transfer from Northern Illinois. He's their big man. You know what you're going to get out of Ace Baldwin. You know what you're going to get out of Nick Curry. You know what you're going to get out of Puff Johnson. You know what you're going to get out of DeMarco Dunn. You know what you're going to get out of all of your guys that were there last year. There's not much that's really going to change for them, except the loss of Kuz Wahab. And this is where Niederhauser will have a big role, because he's going to be their big man that they're going to rely on. Without him, there's not much size at all in their lineup. So I expect Mike Rhodes to play a lot of small ball this year. And is that going to work in the Big Ten? Probably not with the centers that are playing in this league. But if you get up and down the court in transition, I expect them to exploit that. Um, they do return all their starters but Wahab. So that's where I think the difference is. Let Ace Baldwin control the game, and then DeMarco Dunn and Puff Johnson, if they get consistent minutes this year, I think Penn State legit will be a middle of the pack team to where they can upset a few teams. Like Indiana, they play the Palestra game this year out in the Palestra. If they catch Indiana on a bad day, they can beat them. And that's where I think Penn State has an advantage. They got Freddie DeLeon. He was a 5-star recruit at Tennessee. He transferred over. I think there's a lot of potential for Penn State this year. It's just the lack of size that they have underneath that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, and the lack of size is why I have them right behind Nebraska, and I have them as my 12th ranked team, Penn State. And this was a team that really disappointed me last year. I was expecting a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I was expecting them to be a lot better than they were last year. And so the disappointment that I saw from them last year, I think that's why I have them a little lower than you. I get the potential, but it's a team, I got to see it to believe it. Mike Rhodes he looked like one of the worst coaches in college basketball last year. He really, really did with the talent that he has with that team. So I got to see something from Rhodes. I got to see something from this team. And in a bigger Big Ten, I don't know if small ball is going to run. That's why I got Penn State at number 12.
Yeah, and like I talked about earlier with your Michigans, your Indianas, stuff like that, the centers in this league, there's not that many of them. You look at these teams from this conference this year, the center depth is not deep. So that's where I think it might benefit Penn State a little bit compared to, like, if Penn State was in the Big East, I can tell you right now, they would be up there with DePaul because the centers in the Big East would just eat up. They wouldn't be able to stop
Yep.
them. But I think because the lack of depth in center in this conference, it gives Penn State such an advantage this season. That's why I got them where they're at. Like I said, they'll be hit or miss. It's really tough to gauge right now, but that Niederhauser kid is going to have a lot of pressure on him. So we'll see where it goes.
And not to mention the 5-star transfer from Tennessee too. I mean, he went to Tennessee and he didn't play. So I mean, we really haven't got to see him yet. And normally, if you're not playing as a 5-star, there's got to be something going on behind the scenes. So hopefully he can figure things out. Because if you're a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, man, I want to see you be successful. I really do.
One more thing. I pray Mike Rhodes learns the rotations this year. Because last year he played Liam O'Boyle way too much. And that was the downfall of everything. But hopefully he got it under control. I trust him. So...
It's all right. Hopefully Joe Sador can step in at center position, touch the floor.
Baby. Let's go.
Hopefully Joe Sador can come in and carry the big man load for the Penn State and Indy Lions. Hey, Joe Sador comes in. Penn State's winning the Big Ten if Joe Sador comes in. Penn State for the Big Ten championship with Joe.
Yeah, but who do you got at
My number 9, I have the Boo-Buoyless Northwestern Wildcats. And the reason I got Northwestern at number 9 is, yes, they lost Boo Buie, and it is just a massive loss. It's a huge, huge, huge loss. But they're returning everybody else. They are returning everybody else. You're returning Ty Berry. You're returning Brooks Barsmile. You're returning Nick Martinelli. You're returning Matt Nicholson. This team's still going to be good. And I watched their hidden scrimmage, and they looked very good. They dominated Dayton from start to finish. And I'm not sure what Dayton is supposed to really look like this year, but Northwestern still looked like a pretty good team, and I think that they're a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team. I think they're directly in the middle without Boo Buie, and that's why I have them at 9. Now, they did bring in the transfer from Fairfield, Jalen Leach. Obviously, he's no Boo Buie. But, I mean, he can score. He's just, Boo Buie, the loss is tough. I don't think they're going to be competing for a Big Ten championship. But, man, that home court advantage when they got those top 5 teams coming to town, it is always fun watching Northwestern. And they have the experience to be able to pull off upsets over Michigan, over Indiana, over Ohio State. So I think Northwestern's going to be that middle of the pack team at
Yeah,
number 9.
yeah, I got them at like 14, I believe, or something. I got them ranked a little bit lower because without Boo Buie, they need someone to step up.
You got them ranked at 13, right in front of
13,
Purdue. The,
gotcha.
the disgrace.
Nah, I got him ranked that low because they need somebody to step up. We saw last year Ty Berry. He had his spurts where he showed that he can be the scorer at Northwestern. You do got Brooks Barnheiser, 3-point threat, absolutely beautiful. Kid can ball. Uh, Jalen Leach coming in, like you said, and then there's one player that is kind of gonna go over everybody's heads until they start playing, and that's Keenan Fitzmaurice from Stony Brook. He's a transfer that came in, and he was a key component for that team last year. If he comes in and plays ball the way he did at Stony Brook, this Northwestern team will be right back where they were last year. But I need to see them have somebody that can show they can score consistently at a high level, very similar to Boo Buie. And until that, I think they will go about 500 or lower. I think it'll be very interesting watching them play this year. Like you said, they're always good for an upset. They'll always, at home, good for an upset. But until I see somebody who can be a pure scorer for them, I don't really have much expectation.
Yeah, and so for me, and just to let people know this, I think the top 8 teams in the Big Ten that I have, I think the top 8 teams are going to go to the NCAA tournament, and I think the 9, 10, and 11 are going to be those bubble teams, and I believe 12 and below are going to be teams that miss the NCAA tournament. Just a heads up there. But why don't you go over your number 10 first, and then I'll go over my number 10 second.
Wow. You got them in last?
Yes, I absolutely have them in last.
So my number 10, I got Minnesota. I mean, yeah, they lose their starting point guard and they lose Cam Christie, but Dawson Garcia comes back, and he's that vet that what the heck? He's that vet that they need. Um, he was the guy that their offense ran through last year. Granted, Cam Christie, he was able to shoot a few threes, shoot a few mid ranges, but there really wasn't no diversity in his game. Dawson Garcia can do it all. The transfers they have coming in are very solid. They got 5, 10 plus point per game guys coming in. Um, I expect Minnesota to be middle of the pack. Very similar team to last year is where I have them. I not too sure where you got them. I mean, yeah, go ahead. You got Parker Fox. That dude looks
Yeah,
like he did like a 20-year bid. I ain't gonna lie, bro's jacked.
I have them in last. I just think this team's terrible. Other than Dawson Garcia, I now granted I haven't watched a lot of the mid majors, and maybe just maybe the mid major transfers can come in and really pick this team up. And if they do, I can absolutely see why you have them where you are. I do. I think 10's a little bit too high. I think more like 12 to 13 range would be my opinion if the transfers are, but I don't know enough about the transfers, and I know Dawson Garcia is very good, but other than that, I just think the rest of this team's terrible. I don't see it. I just don't see it. That's why I got Minnesota last.
No, I think Parker Fox and Lucy Patterson.
Parker Fox is very muscular, but muscles do not translate to
Dude, yo,
basketball.
yo, if I could plug a picture of him right now and put it in a TikTok clip, I would. But that dude looked like he did 15 to 20 in prison. They just came out and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna hop on the basketball court." But, but yeah, no, I think Minnesota will be able to compete. I mean, we'll see. I think Dawson Garcia is gonna carry that team places that they shouldn't be.
I think my last place is a little more realistic than your last place.
I bet.
I think my number 10 team is the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa is my number 10 team. You got basically this team is the big three. This team is the big three, and the big three will carry this team as far as the big three can carry this team. And the big three is Owen Freeman, Josh Dix, and Peyton Sandfort. And Peyton Sandfort is an NBA caliber player. He is very, very good. He is just another one of those Iowa small forward, power forwards that come out and go to the NBA and just have decent careers. It's just he's just one of those guys where you want on your team. He can do everything. He can shoot. He can play defense. He can rebound. He can score in the post. He can make his free throws. Peyton Sandfort is he's definitely one of the more underrated players in the Big Ten. Arguably, he could be contending for Big Ten Player of the Year if he puts up the stats this year. But like I said, I think the big three is going to carry this team as far as it can go. Josh Dix, he's going to have to step up this year and definitely play a bigger role if I want him to finish 10th where I think they are. The potential is there for Dix, but I really do like the transfer Drew Thelwell from Morehead State. I did watch a good amount of Morehead State in the conference tournament last year, and I really like this kid. I think he could really come in and really contribute to this team. But other than that, Iowa's still got some players off the bench. They got some veteran players coming off the bench. Their bench is two transfers that are two JUCO transfers, which is actually kind of insane to think about. Normally, you don't JUCO. I feel like is more kind of a football route than a basketball route. But it's a deep team, and I think that's why I got them at number 10.
Yeah, I mean, I got them ranked a lot lower than you do, but I see where you're coming from after you explain it. Like I said, there's so many Traores in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're breeding these kids with the last name Traore, but there's so many of them throughout every conference. Like, it's crazy. They got a transfer coming in from Manhattan, Seydou Traore. That Drew Thelwell kid from Morehead State they got coming in. They all have scored 10 or more points per game. That's a common theme I'm seeing, is like, for you to transfer in and prove yourself, you got to average more than 10 points per game. And this team from Iowa, like you said, it's the big three or nothing. And that's why I got them ranked so low. It's because they don't have depth. If you shut one of them down, then leaves you with two players, 2 versus 5. Who's going to win every time? You know what I mean?
In my opinion, I think they have depth, but not proven depth. That's my opinion on it. They got some veteran players that can come off the bench, but I can see why you'd say they don't have depth. The depth just hasn't been proven.
Gotcha. Yeah, so, I mean, we aren't far off. Like I said, for me, there's a big drop-off once you hit your 10 through 18 seeds, for me at least. And I know that our 10 through 18 is a hell of a lot different. And we're going to find out come middle of the Big Ten season.
We disagree on the Big Ten Conference. Other than Indiana and Michigan, we disagree pretty heavily.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's all right. That's what happens. So, but who you got? Who you got that? You got 11, Nebraska.
My 11 was Nebraska. We already went over that. So we can go over your number 11. We have not gone over your number 11.
Yeah. So my number 11, I have Washington. Now, the Huskies lost all their starters last season, and they only returned 2 key players from last year. But there's 2 players that they get that are returning. They aren't going to play that much. So it all comes down to who they picked up in the transfer. I was looking at it. They picked up the Osibor kid from Utah State. I know he was on the radar for Penn State. Could you imagined if they picked up him from Utah State?
I mean, it would certainly help their issue with the big man position for sure. It definitely would.
Yeah, and then they picked up Tyler Ihenacho from North Dakota, Makai Mason from Rice, and DJ Davis from Butler. All those guys averaged 12 or more. I mean, like I always say, though, it comes to a point where you can average all you want in these mid-major games and stuff, but until you actually prove yourself at the next level, it's hard for you to trust them. But seeing the way Osibor played last year and the way that he was talented, I think that's going to cause a lot of trouble because, like we were saying earlier, you look at these Big Ten teams, their depth at center this year is very weak. You got your top 4 teams that have really good centers, and from there there's a drop off of just small ball. Now there's gonna be centers, but they aren't gonna be as talented. And this is where I think Osibor has a great chance to just eat up and go crazy this year. It's his breakout season. And if he doesn't, then I'm just going to eat my words on it and say, hey, Washington sucks. But I'm not going to do that until I see him get stopped. So I think they will be competitive in majority of their games this season. Not saying they're going to win a lot, but I think they'll be competitive in majority of their games.
Yeah, so Washington for me, I got them 17th, right in front of Minnesota. So second to last in the Big Ten this year. I think it's just more of brand new head coach coming in, and I think this Washington team just needs a nice rebuild. And I think it's going to be a rebuilding year. I think this is the DePaul and Seton Hall of the Big Ten here is Washington, I think. And that's why I got them 17th. I think this is going to be a rebuilding year for them. And with a new head coach coming in who's not proven, I think it's just not a team that I can trust. And it's not a team that's been good in a very long time either. So that's why I got them at 17.
No, I see it. I mean, I get where you're coming from. For me, I think I'm putting a lot of trust in Osibor and a
Hmm.
lot of trust in these transfers coming in. Uh, but I look at them compared to what I've seen that's been proven. I know you're gonna hate because I got Purdue ranked below them, but it's because what I've seen from Purdue, and I've seen where those guards, Fletcher, Lawyer, and what's the other guy?
Braden Smith,
Braden Smith. I've seen where they have went cold.
preseason Big Ten Player of the Year candidate Braden Smith.
Nah, I seen where they went cold and they just sucked all game. So I'm just, I don't know. That's why I got them so high. But I don't know. Let's hit. So you had Penn State at number 12.
My number 12, yeah, my number 12 is Penn State. Your number 12 is my number 13 team. So
So we got these guys about the same. I mean,
pretty much.
uh, I think they can shock the Big Ten this season. And Maryland Terrapins. The Maryland Terrapins are a team that I got at 12. He got at 13. I think they can shock the Big Ten and pull off a few upsets because of the talent they have. But my problem is they don't have the depth to compete. Uh,
Yeah,
you got
absolutely.
two great recruits coming in, and Derek Queen and Malachi Palmer. Derek Queen ranked number 8 in ESPN 100. Kid is a monster. You have Malachi Palmer. He's a 4-star recruit. Kid is awesome. Uh, you got the return of Julian Reese and Deshaun Harris Smith. Uh, those guys can ball. You seen Julian Reese miss free throws? I'm joking. I'm joking. I still
Akaben.
I still hold it against him because he did cost me some money one time. But other than that, then you had Jordan Geronimo. This kid, Jordan Geronimo, I think is going to be the star for this team this season. I think this is his breakout year. Geronimo was a transfer from Indiana 2 years ago. Um, I thought he would have had a bigger influence on games last year, but I think this year is the year where he actually has a chance to step up and make plays. So I think Maryland has the potential to make some noise. It's just they don't have the depth to stay at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, and I think that really it's the front court that's going to carry this team, and I think actually this is a front court that could actually be able to compete with the top front courts, in my opinion. You know, Derek Queen and Julian Reese. Derek Queen is very, 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 very good, and Julian Reese, he's been there, done that. He's played in the big games. He's a veteran player. He's going to be able to help Derek Queen grow. And I think Julian Reese is going to be helping Derek Queen throughout the year, and Julian Reese is already good. I think they're going to be able to compete with the front in the front courts this year, but the back court, I think the guards are weak. I really do think the guards are weak, and I think that's going to be an area of issue. And this team, they're not going to be able to shoot the ball, and that has been a struggle for them for the last 2 years. And it's shown because I mean we've seen some games where they have literally only scored like 40 points in a game, and it's ugly, it's bad. I remember, I believe it was 2 years ago. Didn't they lose to Virginia? Wasn't it like 70 to like 34 or something?
Yeah,
It was like somewhere, yeah, it was
rough.
embarrassing. They had like 8 points at halftime. Yeah, and Maryland, I just don't see it with them. I can understand them maybe pulling an upset or two, but I think the team, as long as they keep bringing in recruits like that, I think they're definitely up and coming. I think the future is definitely bright for this team, but for this season, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said between Geronimo and Harris Smith, they're gonna be the key to Maryland's success this year. If those two have a season like last year, it's gonna be the same old Maryland team where they suck. But if one of those two can get going and they feed off each other, they sky's the limit for them. But that's why we both got them so low. I feel like. All right, and then
I already went over my number 14. You already went over yours. 15. So you have, by the way, just throwing this out there, you have Illinois twice. You forgot about Wisconsin. Did you mean to type Wisconsin at 15? Because that's
yeah,
where I have Wisconsin.
yeah. No, I meant to say Wisconsin, or I meant to put them in last. I don't know. I think I put them.
It would make more sense if they were in last. It really, really would.
No, I had them at 15.
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
no, Wisconsin,
Yeah, they lost three of
they
their four
lost a lot.
starters.
They really
The
did.
main guys returning is Stephen Crow, and Max Klesman is coming back, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, they're both coming back. And the issue is with this is, it's kind of, I don't want to say this is similar to Iowa because I think this is a lot weaker Big Three, but Max Klesmit, John Blackwell, and Stephen Crowell, that really is the team. There's no depth on this team whatsoever. You lose AJ Storr in the transfer portal. You don't bring in a good replacement for AJ Storr. I just don't think this team is it, and I think it's just going to be a bad team, and that's why I got them at 15.
I will say one player to keep our eye on this season is Cameron Hunter, transfer from Central Arkansas going to Wisconsin, averaged 17 points per game. Uh, I know it probably won't mean a lot, but I think he will play a significant role in their season this year. But like you said, they lost too much where it's too far for them to come back. They don't have enough talent, and I just think they're gonna struggle a lot and be bottom of the totem pole.
All right, one final team in the Big Ten here, which is my number 16 and your number 17, and that is Michigan State. And first and foremost, I just need to say, Tom Izzo, please retire. Please retire. It's over. It's over, pal. Michigan State is never going to get back to the standard that they were at. The game of basketball has passed Tom Izzo. It has passed Tom Izzo. This team is going to be bad. This team, yes, they're returning Jaden Atkins and Xavier Booker. It's two good players, and Jeremy Ferris Jr. is coming back from injury, another good player. But look at the roster they had last year. Are you kidding me at this point? Like they even with a good roster, they haven't even put up a good record. This roster is a lot worse. Michigan State's going to be terrible this year. Tom, please retire and get out of college basketball while you got the chance because you're just ruining your legacy at this point.
Yeah, I feel bad for Izzo, man. Like if if there's a time for him to leave and just save his legacy, I would say
hmm
now is the time to do it. Like you look at their team
When
this
you have when you have players transferring leaving your team and going to Vanderbilt and Cal, there's clearly something wrong. Like there's clearly something wrong.
correct. I just can't. I look at this team this year and I just think, what the hell? And maybe this is a part of Izzo's plan. Like, you know what I mean? But from the looks of it, the only player they returned, Jaden Atkins, averaged 10 points per
hmm
game. You got two key transfers, I guess you could say. Frankie
hmm
Fiddler from Omaha. What a name, by the way. Frankie Fiddler.
Yep.
20 points per game from Omaha. And then you got Zyman Sapala from Longwood. He averaged 10 points per game. For the first time in a long time, I believe Michigan State will be a bottom tier team in the Big Ten.
hmm
And I hate to
And
say
to
it.
be fair, they've been flirting with the middle to the bottom for the last 2 to 3 years anyway. So I think that they're finally just going to keep plummeting down. And the scariest thing is they're not even recruiting well either. That's the scariest thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
On to the best conference in college basketball this year, which is going to be the Big 12.
Yeah, they are
And
absolutely
we have
loaded.
a very, very similar number one. Now, you're going to have to help me on your on my number two because I already see my number two is shockingly very much lower on your side. But let's just start off with the big elephant in the room, the Kansas Jayhawks. We both have them winning the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this Kansas roster, and I guess you can say it's very similar to Alabama's, which we'll touch on later. On paper, you look at this roster and you think, damn, this team is loaded with talent. But like I said it earlier, and I'm gonna keep on saying it the whole podcast. We've seen it with Arkansas last year. There is a lot of opportunities where there are these transfers that come in and they just bust. They're not good. They don't fit in well with the team. But here's what makes Kansas different from Arkansas's team last year. You look at their roster, and the depth they have is absolutely insane. It's nice to see AJ Storr on a team where he doesn't have to do everything. He's not going to be your number one scorer. You got KJ Adams and Hunter Dickinson underneath. He's not going to have to rebound the ball every game. He can finally be free and be a real number two. And then you got Rylan Griffin coming in from Alabama. I I think Kansas, if there's a year for them to win a national championship, this year is their year. In the first, I'm not gonna say the first time for a long time because they won one recently, but this
Hmm.
is their first time for a while where I see them winning a national championship.
Yeah, no, and this team is unbelievably loaded. There is depth after depth after depth after depth. This is one of the greatest. This is one of the greatest college basketball rosters ever assembled. This is easily one of the greatest. They deserve the preseason number one. They deserve the preseason number one to be the highly ranked team, the favorite to win the national championship. Now, the preseason number one has not won the national championship in a very long time. And for that reason, that's why I don't have Kansas winning the. I think they're going to win the Big 12. I don't think they're going to win the National Championship, though. Do they have the best roster in college basketball? Hands down, absolutely. It's not even close. This is the most talented team in all of college basketball. Hunter Dickinson, star. KJ Adams, monster. Rylan Griffin, can easily fill in that Kevin McCullough's role that they just lost. DeJuan Harris Jr., you know exactly what you're going to get for him. An assist machine. And the number one guy out of the transfer portal, AJ Storr. Yeah, it's loaded. Anybody can score. You got a guy that averaged over 20 points per game last year coming off your bench in Zeke Mayo. Like, it's unbelievable how good this Kansas team is. I do think I'll say it now. They are one of my Final Four teams. They are not my national championship team. But who is my national championship team to win the national championship is my number two team in the Big 12, and that is the Baylor Bears.
What the?
I believe that they're going to win the 2024-2025 national championship. This team is absolutely loaded. Jeremy Roach, fifth year senior transfer from Duke. You know exactly what you're going to get from this guy. He has been there. He has done that. He's been to the Final Fours. He's dealt with the heartbreak. Jeremy Roach is he is the facilitator, and he's going to get the job done. Rob Wright, the fourth, 5-star freshman. I mean, Scott Drew loves these one and done guards, and Rob Wright has a chance to be one of them. I got the pleasure of watching Rob Wright play for Newman Goretti for 3 years before he transferred to Montverde, and what he can do is just unhuman. Like, he is going to be in the NBA sooner rather than later. The returning Jaden Nunn and Langston Love, two guys that really now for them to win a national championship, they're going to step up. They have to step up, and that's why. And I do think that they're going to be able to step up, and that's why I have them winning the national championship. That's two guys that can score and defend, and then at the center position, Norchad Omier. Another guy like Jeremy Roach, he's been to that Final Four. He's played in those big games. He's a fifth year senior. He's going to be a great center and a great piece for Scott Drew. And not to mention that, the number three player in the country and the ESPN Top 100 last year, VJ Edgecombe, he's just coming off the bench for the Baylor Bears. Like when you got that coming off your bench, this is a national championship caliber team. I have them, and that's why I got them finishing second in the Big 12. You, I see, are not as high on Baylor as I am. So why don't you go over where you have Baylor?
Yeah, no, I got them at 9.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I got them at 9 in the Big 12 because yes, they got a lot of talent. But my thing is they got a lot of egos, man. Like I look at them online, VJ Edgecombe. If he's not starting, bro might just say forget it in redshirt this whole year. That's
I
that's
would fair, fair.
that's what I'm trying to see.
I got to sit next to VJ Edgecombe's dad last year when I was watching VJ Edgecombe playing high school. His dad is a hilarious dude. But
Yeah,
VJ, he seems like he comes from a humble family. He really, really does. I pray he would not do that. I really pray.
I just see a lot of I can foresee a lot of conflict on this team. I don't know why or how, but there's a lot of egos I can see causing a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be super talented, but outside of their top 6, do they have anything else? That's it.
They have bench depth. They have young bench depth.
Yeah,
It's not no 5 stars. It's not no 4 stars. It's a bunch of 3 stars coming off the bench.
yeah. So I want to see how they play first. You got these younger
We're
guys.
gonna get to see it on opening night, which we'll get to later.
We will
But
get
we're
to
going
it.
we're gonna get to
You're
see
gonna
right
yeah,
away
you're
if
gonna
Baylor's the
see.
real deal or
We're
not.
gonna watch Jeremy Roach get cooked by Nemhard, and you're gonna watch Amir get absolutely destroyed by EK. But we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Baylor's one of the teams I gotta see to believe. Scott Drew always puts out amazing teams. Not gonna lie, but this year I just need to see it to believe it. Well, like I said, we'll touch back in 2 weeks and we'll remake
Hmm.
everything, and I'm sure we will probably more than likely have a very similar kind of top teams for each conference, except
Hmm.
for Illinois. They're gonna be dog shit.
They are gonna be 100 points per game, leading scorer in the entire country.
All right. Do you want to hit my
So
number
what?
two
Yeah,
team, or do you
yeah.
want to
Go
hit?
ahead, go over your number two, because
Yeah.
I have them a little lower. I have them a little lower,
Where
not
you
too
got?
much
Where
lower,
you
but a
got?
little lower.
So I got Cincinnati as my number 2. Where do you got them at?
I have them at number 6.
Okay. Kind of respectful. I mean, but here's why. I can tell you why I have them at number 2 is because last year towards that end of the season, Cincinnati was one of the best teams in the country, and I would have loved to watch them get into the tournament. Um, they didn't lose much to anything at all. They didn't lose anything really. I expect them to be a top dog in the Big 12, and not off of just losing one person. They add in Dylan Mitchell.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
you add in Dylan Mitchell, you still got Dan Skillings, Lukosius, Dede Thomas, Badongo, and then off the bench you got Jizzle James. This team is going to be awesome to watch. They're going to be electric. I mean, you seen it last year with Dan Skillings. He's the Roman Catholic?
Absolutely. Dan Skillings, Philly Pride's own former teammate of mine. Dan
Exactly.
Skillings.
We love Dan Skillings. And I guess I'm not gonna say it's biased because I watched him play last year, and this team was awesome to watch, and that's why I got Cincinnati so high. I'm so high on them because I know what to expect, and if they played together all off season, grew together and everything, this team, the sky's the limit. They can be a championship contender. They got the size, they got the playmaking. Dan Skillings can make anything happen. Lukosius, great shooter. Dede Thomas, great number one. Dylan Mitchell coming in, we'll see what he can do in this team. I that's why I got him so high is because I know what to expect.
Yeah, no, it's a veteran team. It's a great basketball team. I have them a little lower just off the fact of the Big 12 is just so talented this year. And Cincinnati's good, but I just think that these teams in front of them, they're just a little bit better. But Day Thomas, he's a star. Dan Skillings, you know exactly what to expect from. Dylan Mitchell, I feel like he hasn't tapped into that potential that we could see him tap into. I think transferring out of Texas definitely did him good, and I think we're going to see him tap into that potential for sure. But Jizzle James is just now Jizzle James. If Zeke Mayo was not coming off the bench for Kansas, you could argue Jizzle James could be sixth man of the year. But Cincinnati, I absolutely understand the hype around this team. I can absolutely understand why you have them at number two. I'm just a little bit lower just off the fact of the teams in front of them. And now that I look at it, my number five team, you could switch five and six. But I'll explain my number five when we get there. But absolutely can understand why you got them at two. I just think the talent on these other teams in front of them are just a little too much. So now number three, we both got the same number three. So, and this is another team where they're returning everybody. Absolutely everybody. And this team is another just loaded, talented team, and it's the Iowa State Cyclones. Taman Lipsey, Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones, Milan Montilovich. Does it get any better than that? Does it get any better than that? I mean, this is just they're ranked inside the preseason top five for a reason. The Big 12 is just it's so loaded on so many levels. And the scariest thing is the top four teams in the Big 12, you could argue that this is the top four teams in the country. You can make an argument for that. But Iowa State, I don't think there's really much to say. Just off the fact that we know exactly what to expect. This team was amazing last year. You're returning everybody. They're only going to get better. This team's going to be amazing again this year. I think that's really all you need to say about the Cyclones.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Same team from last year, pretty much. You got Deshaun Jackson. What a name, Deshaun Jackson. Coming in from Charlotte. You can arguably interchange him with JT Rock, 7 foot guy.
Yeah,
Those two,
JT Rock, man, he is not no pun intended, but he's going to be the rock of that defense coming off the bench, man. He is such a shot blocking machine. He is gonna be just he's gonna be phenomenal. And to be able to rotate him and Deshaun Jackson, I mean that's a dangerous duo. That's a dangerous duo.
yeah. So I think Taman Lipsey, you know what you're getting. Keyshawn Gilbert, you know what you're getting. Curtis Jones, you know what you're getting. Mama Silovich, Brogan smack threes from everywhere. I mean, that it's the same Iowa State team from last year. It's just you're adding in two big men instead of one. So, which is dangerous. I'm excited to watch them play and see where they go this year. Um, yeah. So at number four, you got Houston.
I do have Houston.
I got Houston at my number six. Uh, do you want to go
Yeah,
over Houston
yeah,
first?
I got Houston. So Houston is just they're pretty much just a staple of college basketball at this point. They're a consistent team that's going to be top 10, top 15 every single year. I got them at number four just off of the fact that they lost Tremont Mark. I mean that's a big loss. Wait, no, not Tremont Mark. Tremont Mark went to Arkansas and then went somewhere
No,
else.
she.
Jamal Shed. That's who I'm thinking of. The loss of Jamal Shed is big. And Milos Uzan, transfer from Oklahoma, he's no Jamal Shed. He's going to come in. He's not going to be able to fill those shoes. But the reason I got Houston at number four is they return everybody else. The sharpshooter, L.J. Cryer, the driver, Emmanuel Sharp, Javier Francis, the guy who can really play in the post, and Jawan Roberts, just a specimen of a human being to play the center position, offensive rebounding. This team, again, it's just going to be it's a core group here, and the reason I can see maybe you have Houston lower is because the depth. They really don't have depth this year. They didn't recruit well. They don't have depth this year. It's really this starting lineup and maybe a guy or two off the bench, but they're not going to play many players. But I just think Houston is so well coached defensively that their defense is going to be able to lock down any offense in the Big 12 and keep them in games, and that's why I have them at number four.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I have them ranked a little bit lower than you is because you're gonna need to see LJ Cryer and Francis both step up a lot on the offensive end of side of on the offensive end of things this year. I think Cryer is going to have to be the shed from last year, and
Hmm.
it's hard for me to see that. Now, granted, like you said, Kelvin Sampson, defense, 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 defense. Defense can only take you so far, though. You gotta be able to score on the other end. That's where I see the problems for Houston that may occur with being in the SEC. Um, like I said, Big 12. My bad.
It's all
But yeah,
right.
that's where I expect. I expect there to be a lot of questions, is because Houston transferred this conference a lot to a more defensive side of things, alone because of their previous years. And I'm excited to see where they are this year. That's why I got them ranked so low, is because not because I know what they're going to do defensively, but I know offensively they aren't going to be as stout as previous
Hmm.
years.
Yep. So why don't you go over your number four? Because your number four is my number 10. I'm not very high. I'm not as high on this team as you.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So the Red Raiders they got three of their five starters back. Uh, like we said earlier, they lose Pop Isaacs. I expect a lot of room for Elijah Hawkins. So Elijah Hawkins is their transfer that came in from Minnesota, the little point guard. Uh,
Hmm.
I expect him to step up into a role that he didn't have at Minnesota. Uh, I'm very excited to see how he works with Federico and Toppin as his bigs. So you're gonna have JT Toppin and Federico as your big men. Those two are going to be arguably two of the top two big men in the conference this year. They're gonna be very fun to watch. This team's gonna be awesome to watch because I hate to say it, but this year it seems like the more we talk about here in college basketball, it's gonna be the return of a big man actually playing like a big man, not
Hmm.
shooting threes and all this other shit. They're gonna be underneath the basket in the paint, playing like a genuine big man. That's JT Toppin style, and I know that's Federico's style. So I'm very excited to see this Texas Tech team. That's why I got them ranked so high, is because they got a power forward and a center that both can be interchanged and play at a very high level.
Yeah, so I have them ranked a lot lower. I have them at 10. I like the pickup on Elijah Hawkins, but I just don't think Elijah Hawkins is an upgrade over Pop Isaacs. I think Pop Isaacs is a pretty big loss for them. They bring back Darian Williams and Chance McMillan. That's two great guys to bring back, two leadership guys. And JT Toppin and Federico Federico. Love the name Federico Federico. Who doesn't love having the same first name and last name? But yeah, I think the front court is really the best part of this team. I really do. And I think I have them ranked just off the fact so low is where is Chance McMillan and Darian Williams going to fit in now on this team with just where are they going to fit in now is my question. And then Elijah Hawkins, I like I said, he's a great player and I think he's going to do well. He's just stepping into a conference that, in my opinion, is a lot better than the Big Ten conference. And I think that's going to definitely hurt them. I think it's definitely going to hit him hard to start the season. But I don't see what I think four is definitely too high. I think you could definitely have them higher than 10. I get that, but Texas Tech, it's just a team where, and just to go back to what it is, it's just such a talented Big 12. And this is a good team, and I think this is a team that if Texas Tech was in the Big 10, they'd probably finish in the top three. But this is the Big 12, and that's why I got them at number 10.
Nah, I see it. I see where you say it. But like I said, that front court is nasty.
And in my personal opinion, I think that 10 teams, the top 10 teams in the Big 12, in my opinion, those are the teams that can make the NCAA tournament. And then
Gotcha.
I think you're going to have bubble teams at 11, 12. And then I think 13 through 16 is not going to be able to make it.
Not make it. Yep. So number five, we both have the same number five. We got Arizona. Uh, uh,
And I
you
think
want you want to hit
a
this?
lot of people have Arizona. at this range. We're not the only ones. I've seen most people have Arizona at this range. Yeah, you return Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, KJ Lewis. You bring in Trey Townsend, which if you don't know him, he's that guy that went absolutely ballistic for Oakland in the NCAA tournament. He's a sharpshooter, and he's what they need. He's absolutely what they need. And you know that they're going to go overseas for their big men, and they bring in Kravis, a guy from overseas. Normally, these overseas guys do turn out. This is a veteran Arizona team, and that's why I got them at 5. Is just the veteran leadership. I've been saying, and you're going to hear me repeat this as we continue to go through the Big 12 here, but I just think the teams in front of them are more talented. And honestly, I hate Caleb Love. Caleb Love, I hate you. I don't like you whatsoever. I think you're very overrated. Jaden Bradley, he's a good player. KJ Lewis, good player. Trey Townsend, I think he's really gonna. Now, I do think Trey Townsend and Kravis here, that Townsend being able to stretch the floor and Kravis being able to stay in the paint. I could see Arizona, if they hit their full potential, they could definitely be higher than 5. But I don't think they're going to hit their full potential. I think they're going to be at that number 5 spot.
Yeah, you hit right on the head. I think Trey Townsend arguably can be a lottery draft pick after this season. I'm not gonna lie. I think he is an absolute monster, and him finally getting an opportunity to prove his point, besides on a level of mid-major basketball, this really is his coming out party. And him with Caleb Love, I think that's a nasty combo. So for me, that's why I got Arizona so high, is because the talent combination of Caleb Love and Trey Townsend, hand in hand, will be able to carry this team to being in the mix at the end of the Big 12 season to possibly win a Big 12 championship. So, I mean, that's what I got. And then,
Yeah, so number 6, I already went over my number 6 at Cincinnati. We already went over your number 6, which is Houston. We both got the same number 7 as well here in Kansas State. Why don't you start off here with Kansas State?
yeah, so Kansas State, you can expect a lot of regression out of them this year. They lose 4 of their 5 stars. No Tyler Perry, Cam Carter, or Arthur Kaluma. They lose all 3 of them, and then they lost their other star last year. Coleman Hawkins and Arthur Kaluma, you could say, are very similar styles. Coleman Hawkins is
Arthur
coming in.
Kaluma. Arthur Kaluma went transferred to Texas.
Yeah, yep. So I was saying Coleman Hawkins coming in from Illinois to K-State, they have a very similar style to the way they play. So I'm excited to see Coleman Hawkins. He kind of is going to take Arthur Kaluma's spot in this team. So he's going to start, and question is free throw shooting with him. That's always been a struggle for him throughout all his years at Illinois. Watched a lot of Illinois games. That was always a problem. And then the combination you can make from Doug McDaniel to Tyler Perry is almost identical too. So it's the players they're losing, they're gaining the same caliber type of player, if not better. You can make that argument. Now, I know some people are going to say Kaluma is better than Hawkins. You get tomato, same thing. I do think they'll be a middle-of-the-pack team, but the potential is there. You got Aker coming in from Stanford. He is an absolute monster. Brendan Halston coming in from Villanova. He didn't really play that much at Nova, but he's finally going to get a chance to actually play. So it's a lot of unknowns with this team, and if they can gel, they're going to be a contender. But if they end up not being able to, I could see them falling apart very easily.
Yeah, and this is the same story as last year for Kansas State. This is a team, last year they started 5 transfers. This year they're starting 5 transfers. I think this year they have a better roster than last year, though. Doug McDaniel is that perfect small point guard that Jerome Tang loves. He loves those small point guards, and Doug McDaniel is that perfect fit. Brendan Hassan, I think this could be a key in whether Kansas State is the 7th team or if they're lower. If he hits that potential, it's going to be right there. Coleman Hawkins, as crazy as it sounds, they're going to have Coleman Hawkins playing the 3, and he played the 4 and 5 at Illinois. This is a Kansas State team that's going to play big. This is going to be one of the biggest teams beside Doug McDaniel in all of college basketball. They want to play big. Coleman Hawkins, he can play the 3. Now, does he need to get better consistently shooting the 3? Absolutely. 100% needs to get better at shooting the 3. Achor, the transfer from Stanford, I mean, he's an animal. He's an absolute monster. He's going to fit well in this Big Ten. And then Ugonna Osia, the transfer from Kentucky, really didn't get a chance to see him last year that much, but the potential is there. And when he was in there, man, did he ever block some shots. And not to mention that his backup center is also 7 foot tall in Bay Falls. So Kansas State, this is a high ceiling for this team. And again, we have them ranked at 7 just off the fact of how good the Big 12 conference is. If this Kansas State team was in the Big 10, you could argue that this team could win the Big 10.
Yeah, no, I agree. The size is going to be a problem, and like we said earlier with the Big 10 is they don't have the size. So if that team was in the Big 10,
yeah,
they could coast to a championship.
They
So
absolutely could.
let's look at next.
We both
number
have the
8.
same number 8.
Yeah, number 8 we both got UCF. Do you want to cover them?
Yeah, no. So UCF here, it's a really good backcourt, man. They're returning Darius Johnson and Jalen Sellers. This is two veteran backcourt players. They're going to know exactly what to do here, and they're going to be good, man. They're going to be really good. Mikey Williams comes in, and man, Mikey Williams is something else, man. Mikey Williams, he got himself into a lot of trouble. He's back now. I mean, great for you, man. You're not serving 28 years in prison like you probably should be. Is he going to be able to get back to that high caliber of basketball, though, that he was at when he was in high school? I don't know. He's a big question mark. If he does, I think they can finish higher than 8. I don't know if he is going to do it in his first year, though, so that's why I got him at 8. The transfer from George Mason, Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall, the transfer from George Mason, I think he's going to be a perfect fit. And then Mustafa Thom, a 4-star freshman coming in. It is bright, and UCF's future is also very bright as well. But number 8 in this conference, again, it's just the talent that's in front of them. But this is a good team. This will definitely be an NCAA tournament team, in my opinion.
Yeah, Dior Johnson and Mikey Williams. There was one point in time they both were number 1 in their respective conferences,
Yep.
and like you said, Mikey arguably should never even be able to touch a court again because of
Yep. Yeah.
his criminal past. But athletes sometimes they get exceptions, and he's got blessed with another chance. So it's all what he makes out of the second chance. If he gets back to the way he, like you said, he played in high school, so forth and so on. Same thing with Dior. Dior Johnson went to JUCO a year. He played at Pitt, struggled tremendously at Pitt. Got into some trouble out there, went JUCO, ended up coming back, and now he's at UCF. So him and Mikey Williams together is going to be awesome to watch, but also entertaining because you don't know what to expect. If it's the Dior Johnson that showed up at Pitt, they're going to be in trouble. If it's the Mikey Williams that can't stay out of trouble, then he won't make it half the season. But I genuinely think UCF is a team where if they play to their full potential, they are going to be a top team in the Big 12.
All right, our number 9 teams here next. You already went over your number 9, which was Baylor. My number 9 is BYU. So my BYU is a team. Yes, they lost their head coach, and yes, they lost one of their power forwards. But other than that, I was shocked to see. I thought these guys would really follow Mark Pope to Kentucky. They stayed at BYU. The Dallin Hall returning, Trevin Knell, sharpshooter, returning. Fasoin Tayor, another Tayor. What? How about that, man? Another Tayor in college basketball. I just think this is I think this is a good middle of the pack team. And not to mention that they got Igor Demon, a 5-star freshman coming in as well. This is just another good basketball team, and it's just off the fact that the talent in front of them is better, and that's why they're this low. But again, I think this is another team you're going to see in the NCAA tournament. Absolutely.
See, I'm on the opposite side of things. I think they're going to struggle a lot. Um,
So do you? So I guess my question is, do you think Mark Pope was really their key to success? Is that
yes,
why you have? Okay.
I think between Mark Pope, you lost Noah Waterman, you lost Ali Khalifa. Those you lose your all your star players, I guess you could say, are all gone. You gotta restart from scratch. You do have Kelly Orehead, who's still there. And like I said, there's a million of them. So I get them confused once in a while with who's who. Like from all the games I watch, uh, it you got Igor Deming that came in. He's a 5-star freshman. He's going to be okay. I just need to see him gel and how they perform. Like I said, you can't overreact to secret scrimmages, but BYU did not look good in their secret scrimmage. But new head coach, new everything. I mean, you gotta give them time to gel, and then we'll come back to BYU further down the line.
Mm-hmm. All right. So my number 10 here was Texas Tech. I already went over them. Why don't you go over your number 10?
Yeah. So my number 10, your number 11. I got TCU, and whole it's another situation of either your whole team's transferred out or graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they do bring in Frankie Collins from Arizona State. Frankie Collins can ball. Remember watching him last year. He can perform at all levels of the court. Uh, Now, this is one of the situations where you get these mid-major kids in that, for their teams, they were averaging 15 plus points per game. You got Noah Reynolds, play for Green Bay, averaged 20 points per game. Trezarian White, averaged 19 points per game. You look at these players they bring in, and you ask that question of, will they be able to perform at this Big 12 level, competition level? Uh, you got Uday coming in from Kansas. I genuinely see this starting five lineup and think like, if they play to their potential, this team can end up. Now they aren't going to be at the top of the Big 12 because there's so many teams that are 1,000 times better than them, but they
Mm-hmm.
will be a middle of the pack team.
Yeah, no, and for me, I have them right behind you at 11. And it's just a team, they're starting 5 transfers, and I think they're going to struggle at the beginning. Any team that's starting 5 transfers, I think you're going to struggle at the beginning. I like Frankie Collins. I do think that's a good pickup. Ernest Uday, you don't know what you're going to get from him. We've seen flashes at Kansas. Maybe he can be really good. Maybe he can't be. But it's just going to be about these mid-major players. Can they come in and can they still put up these points that they're averaging? Because if they are, I mean, TCU could be. You could argue TCU could be higher in these rankings, definitely, if they do put up those kind of numbers. But I got them at 11, and I think they're a last four in, first four out type team. But not a bad team, just not. It's just going to be on the mid majors. The transfer from the mid majors, can they get the job done at the next level?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're in the same type of boat here. Um, so I look down the line here, and we got who we got next.
Your number
Arizona
11
State.
is Arizona State. So why
Yep.
don't you go
So
over Arizona State?
yeah.
I
So
got them
we're
at
Arizona State
13.
at 11. You got them at 13. Um, Arizona State. They're a team I could see balling. I mean, I look at their lineup. Adam Miller. He's been in college basketball for seems like forever. Started off at
I
LSU.
believe this is either his senior or he's a fifth year senior. He's one
Started
of the
off at
two.
Illinois, LSU, Arizona State's where he's gonna end out, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, I think this is where his leadership's gonna have to play a big role in their season. Uh, he's always been a sharpshooter, and got in Austin Mason from Missouri State. He can ball. Jason Sanson, 4-star freshman. BJ Freeman from Milwaukee. He was the guy hand in hand with Towson. Those two would always go at it every single game. Um, I just they're gonna be good, but like you said, there's so much talent ahead of them that it's gonna be hard for them to compete night in, night out at the Big 12 level.
Yeah, Arizona State, I'm a little lower on them at 13. This is a team, it's a bright future, man. This team has such a bright future. They're very young. This is a very young team. They got a lot of up and coming talent. The 4-star Jason Sanson, the big one, the 5-star Jaden Caton's the top 10 recruit. I got to watch him play when he was in high school, and I mean, this guy's an absolute beast. He is an absolute beast, and he's going to be a specimen in the Big 12 for years to come. But it's just the teams in front of them. They're so more. It's a lot of veteran teams in front of them, and a young team like Arizona State. I just don't think they're going to be able to compete in the Big 12 this year. But the future very bright for this team, very bright for Arizona State.
Yeah, I agree. I think they got a good. They always. I remember when they had Remy Martin, and
Yep.
they had a college basketball culture there that you wouldn't see in the Pac-12 or any other school. And I want to see them get back to that now that they joined. I'd want to say a more basketball cultured conference. So I want to see them get back to that level. Um, then let's go to number 12. You got Oklahoma State.
Hmm.
I got them at 15. I mean, I feel like once we hit this 12 to 16 range.
Yeah.
Wait, let me rephrase that. That 12 to 15 range, because Colorado's gonna be dead last. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yes, we will.
Um,
Joel, I hope you don't watch this, man. We're gonna slaughter your Buffaloes.
yeah, sorry,
Oh
Joel.
man.
Um, but yeah, you got Oklahoma State.
Should we call Joel and bring him on as a guest star when we get to Colorado?
I don't know if he'll want to join.
Oh, good Lord. But no, Oklahoma State here. Here, I can get over here. Marcellus Avery transferred from UCF. This is one of the UCF guys that I wish didn't leave because the UCF could be better if he stayed there and came off the bench. But here is an interesting name that a lot of people of you probably have forgotten. But Devo Davis. He was a star at Arkansas. Now, last year, Arkansas, everything that could have went wrong for Arkansas. I mean, it was just, yeah, the rumors coming out of that locker room, I pray they were true. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. But Devo Davis, Bryce Thompson, he's a fifth-year senior leader for this team. Pat Sumnick, a transfer from West Virginia, and Abdul Usman, the transfer from Xavier. Like this isn't a bad roster. It's just I look at this roster and ask myself, can they gel? And I think that they can gel a good bit, but it's an Oklahoma State team that's going to have a new head coach in Steve Lutz coming in, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to compete with the other teams in the Big 12, and that's why I have them at 12, and why you probably have them as lower is 2.
Yeah, I got them lower because I don't see much within this team.
Although I will say one thing, I think Oklahoma State pulls off one big upset this year, one random big upset this year.
Yeah, they might beat Illinois. Um,
They don't play Illinois. They do not play Illinois.
no, yeah, I just think it's gonna be a struggle this season for them. I think it's an opportunity for them to rebuild. Try to get some recruits in. Actually use the recruits, not hit the transfer portal like all these coaches do now.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I think it's gonna be rough. I don't see much to anything out of this team. That's why I got them ranked so low. Is because the talent level at the Big 12 is so high. Where if you put this Oklahoma State team in any other conference, they probably will be middle of the pack. I would put them. But it's hard to put them up any higher than what I got them because of the talent.
Yeah, why don't we go to your number 12? Because your number 12 is different than my number 12.
Yeah. So my number 12, I got Utah. Uh, they definitely will have a tough time transferring over Big 12 because of the style of play. Utah always played so slow and focused on threes. Historically, that's been the way of Big 12, but Houston set the tone so different with the defense where it's been difficult for teams to shoot the three ball anymore. It's always been run and gun now. 4 of the 5 stars are gone. I expect them to struggle a lot and be at the bottom of the Big 12. They do got Miro Little coming in from Baylor. He barely played last year, but he gets the opportunity to show himself. Gabe Madsen returning. He was a sharpshooter, 3-point guy. Mike Shavramps from San Francisco. Ezra Allsar from Eastern Carolina. Lawson Lovering returning. And then you look at the bench, and they got Mason Madsen. I would assume that's Gabe Madsen's brother.
It is. Yep, both transferred from Boston College.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, they're gonna have the team to where they're gonna be, like I said, where I got them ranked is probably where I see them ending up. They're gonna beat these bottom tier teams and beat some middle of the pack teams, but I don't see them being anything else than that.
Yeah, so I got Utah at 15, second worst team in the Big 12. I just don't see it with this team, and I just don't see it with this team. Mira Little isn't proven. Gabe Madsen, Mason Madsen, not bad. You know, they were pretty good for Boston College last year. But other than that, I don't see it with this team. I don't think it's going to transfer well in their first year in the Big 12, and that's really why I have them at 15, just in front of Colorado.
No, I see where you have it. Like I said, that 12 to 15, you can interchange any of those teams out, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Then what we got? 13, I got West Virginia. 14, you got West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just run over that real quick?
Yeah, West Virginia, it's just a team. They got a great head coach. And the team isn't terrible. It's just, again, the talent in front of them, it's just a lot. I think it's really a rebuilding year for West Virginia, and this is also a team that's going to be starting 5 transfer players. I like West Virginia's future with DeVries as the head coach. I think they are going to get back to being one of the top tier teams in the Big 12 in the next year or two, but I don't think this year is the year. But the transfers they brought in, Tucker DeVries, the coach's son, I mean, he's a star. He really is. But can he be a star at the Big 12 level? We're going to see. Now, I will say Amani Hansberry is a guy that I'm very excited about. He was the center for Illinois last year, and, I mean, he was really good. He was really, really good. And I think if he sticks around at West Virginia for the next 2 years, he's only a sophomore. I really, really like him to be like a kind of a leader of the team come to the future.
Yeah.
And then obviously Sincere Harris followed him as well from Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this team and
It's not a bad roster. It really isn't, but it's not a Big 12 caliber roster.
Yeah, sophomore. I mean, DeVries has something to build off of for future reference here. I mean, you can have Sincere Harris come back, Hansberry come back. Not sure. DeVries might be a senior. He might be a junior.
He is. Yeah, this will be his last year.
Okay.
So that'll be one of the big. Him and Javon Small will be one of the big losses. But the recruiting class looks very bright for them.
Correct. So I mean, yeah, they're gonna struggle a lot this year, I believe, because they're gonna try to play that small ball, and it's gonna be rough to do that. But if you're gonna do it in any conference, this is the conference to do it. Really, because once you get out of that top 5 range, what you really got center wise. So if you're gonna do it, this is the conference to do it in. But yeah, I think they're gonna struggle a lot and have some problems. So that's why I got them ranked so low.
And we already went over my 15 and your 15, so that brings us to the Colorado Buffalo. And this team's awful. This team is absolutely terrible. There's no bright side in this team whatsoever. Only the Lord Jesus Christ will be able to help the Colorado Buffalo this year. Joel, watch the Denver Nuggets. Watch the NBA. Do not watch a Colorado Buffalo basketball game because your TV will end up outside.
Poor Joel, man. You feel bad for him?
I do, man, because this is a team that was in the Pac-12 title game last year. Like, it's like, what happened? It's like,
Yeah,
what are we doing? We leave and go to the Big 12, and everybody just leaves. Like, come on now. Like,
yeah, I
this team's
agree.
awful. They didn't even look at the transfer portal. They don't have one transfer. They don't have one transfer on this team.
No notable pickups. So I got written down.
This is in my opinion the worst Power Five team.
Yeah, I don't know
I
if they
think they're worse
win.
than DePaul and Seton Hall.
I don't think they'll win a conference game this year. Like
I don't think they
all
will either.
seriousness, like no
I don't know
bullshit.
if they're going. They might be a 4 to 5 win team. Period. Like I don't know if they're even going to be able to compete with the mid majors.
Yeah, nah, it's really bad. Um, well, I guess that's the way to end the Big 12 there.
Hmm.
So up next we have the SEC.
And we definitely got the same number one, and that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. And this team is loaded on all cylinders. This is behind Kansas, probably the second most talented team in the country. You return Mark Sears. You return Latrell Wrightsell. You're bringing in the 4-star Darian Reed. Grant Nelson has come back, and you get Cliff Amorie, the transfer from Rutgers. It's a veteran team. It's a team that's going to be able to rebound. It's a team that's lengthy. And the big difference between Alabama teams in the past and this Alabama team is they're going to be able to defend. They are going to be able to defend, 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 defend. And you have Chris Youngblood, who was an absolute star at USF last year, coming off the bench, along with Phylan, another 4-star recruit. Alabama is absolutely loaded from top to bottom. And this is a team that's national. They're coming off a Final Four run. They could easily be back there again this year. I haven't thought of my complete Final Four yet so far, but I do have two of the four teams. Obviously, I said back in the Big 12 in Kansas and Baylor, but Alabama is definitely a team that I'm thinking about throwing in my Final Four pick for sure.
Yeah, I'm. Yeah, they're loaded. Grant Nelson and Mark Sears coming back is insane, and then you got Youngblood and Amorie. It makes for an amazing starting lineup to have. Um, if one's having an off night, another one can pick up. And then you got Aiden Holloway on top of it coming in from Auburn. The depth that this team has is arguably the best in college basketball. So, I mean, um, I don't know what to. Yeah, I mean, I got them in Kansas. Like, those two are the top two, and arguably so on paper. So, that's what I got. And then we look at. So, let's go over our number twos. I'll hit mine first in Tennessee. Um, so, I look at my ranked number two for Tennessee. Let me get to them. So Tennessee, they lost 4 of their 5 starters. So you would think that there would be a lot of regression from this team this year. They do bring back Zakai Ziegler. They will rely on him for a lot of production for their offense. They do still have a lot of space to fill, but Rick Barnes is great at that. They lost all their talent, you guess you could say. They picked up Chaz Lanier from North Florida, Darlinstone Dubar from Hofstra. Between those two and Zakai Ziegler, they will have to produce for their offense. Um, Chaz Lanier might be a candidate for SEC Player of the Year. And I really, really, really liked watching this kid play at North Florida. He is an absolute tank of a player. He knocks down shots that he shouldn't make. And that's what's so fun to watch him play. Between him and Zakai Ziegler, the 1-2 between those two are awesome. They also do got Felix Okpara from Ohio State. He's a great, great center for them. one thing you can note from them is they're a veteran team. So all these guys that they brought in, they all have been in college basketball for a long time. They're a great defensive team. The only thing is the depth that you might have to worry about for them. So, so they may not be as deep as you may think. But like I said, I expect them to be able to score at all suits of the game this year, and that's why I got them ranked so high. You got anything on Tennessee, Kyle?
Yeah. So the Tennessee Volunteers, I have them a little bit lower than you. I have them at number 5. And the reason I have them at number 5 is this team is they're not bad. They're not a bad team at all. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to score. That is my big concern with the Tennessee Volunteers. You know they're going to be great defensively. You know they're going to be a phenomenal defensive team. But can they score? That's the big, big question. You got a lot of veterans. You got a lot of great defense. But really, I think it just comes down to can they score and is the depth is the depth going to be able to handle? And I don't think they have much depth at all on this Tennessee team. But I think they're still good enough defensively to where that they can be a top 5 team in the SEC. That is why I have them at number 5.
Yeah, that's so. I was talking about Chaz Lanier, and coming in from North Florida, and that kid can score from any facet of the game, and that is what I love watching him play at North Florida. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they aren't gonna have the depth, but it's like Zakai Ziegler has always found ways to get it done, regardless of when he played there. He was always their guy that they would go to score. So I'm excited to watch him sit back and give other players the opportunity to score. So it's a matter of the unknown. I'm putting more faith into what I've seen personally in the past. But your number 2 is my number 4.
Yes. I have
So
the
you
Auburn Tigers at number 2. And I have Auburn at number 2 because this team is absolute. And you're going to notice a theme, by the way, in these SEC teams. Veteran teams. All these teams in the SEC are veteran teams. There is not many young guys on any of these teams. But J.P. Peggs, the transfer from Furman, he's a great replacement for Trey Donaldson. A big loss like that, you bring in a big guy like him. You're returning Denver Jones. You're returning Chad Baker-Mazara. You're returning Chancey Johnson. And you're returning arguably the potential best player in the SEC. Arguably the best player in the SEC in Janai Broome, who can do it all. This is an Auburn team that is very, very deep. Very, very deep team. Dylan Cartwell, Miles Kelly, 2 sharpshooters that off the bench. And let's not mention that Thad Pettiford is a 4-star point guard that's going to be backing up J.P. Peggs. This team is absolutely loaded, just like Auburn. I had a really hard time picking between Auburn and Alabama to be my number 1 in the SEC. I ultimately went Alabama just because I thought that with the experience in the Final Four last year, I think that helps them get over the hump of Auburn. But Auburn is just right up there with Alabama and Kansas. The talent on this team is just unbelievable.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head here. J.P. Peggs, absolute monster. Miles Kelly, too, coming in from Georgia Tech, averaged 14 points per game. Peggs averaged 18 points per game. And arguably, you can say that SoCon Conference that Furman's a part of, that might be one of the top mid-major conferences because those teams always beat the hell out of each other every year. But yeah, I expect Auburn to be a solid team. They got Janai Broome back, like you said, and Chad Baker-Mazara. That gives them the leadership that they need, and I'm excited to see what they got. That's why I got them at where I got them at 4. So I'm not too far off. But then you get to my number 3 team. And I know you're probably questioning it. I can't hear you. 1 second.
Good?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty much I can understand it. I just don't think that they're gonna click. I don't think that they're gonna click, and that's why his number three is my number 10. So why don't you go over Ole Miss first here, and then I can go over why I have them at number 10 second.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Chris Beard does it every year, but he finds a way to get talent in. He lost a lot from last season, but he still keeps Matthew Morrell, 16 points per game, Jalen Murray, 13 points per game, Jamin Brakefield, 12 points per game. And adding to that three that you already got from their starters from last year, you got Sam Padula coming in from Virginia Tech. He will be a great point guard to run up top with Matthew Morrell. Dre Davis, another great guard to throw in there. And then Michael Brown Jones from University of North Carolina, Greensville coming in. Uh, I just think this team is going to be deep. Malik Daya from Belmont. They're a very, very talented group of kids that he got this year, and the depth is going to take them a lot further than what I think a lot of people will see. Uh, this might be the best team that I've seen Chris Beard have in a long time.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I can see the hype. I think three is too high. Now, and maybe you think 10 is too low. I can definitely understand that, but I love the pickup in Sean Padula. That's a great pickup. I think he's going to fit in well next to Matthew Morrell. Dre Davis transfer from Seton Hall. I think he's going to fit in well. My issue here is I'm really worried about the front court. I think the front court could be the weak spot of this team, and I think that could be an issue. Now they have Juju Murray coming off the bench and Mikel Brown Jones, who's a backup four or five, whichever one you want to put him. But the reason I have them this low is number one, I just don't know if this team is going to click, and number two, I'm worried about the front court. So that's why I have them at number 10. And I also just think that these teams in front of them just have, I don't want to say more talent. I think some of them have more talent for sure. But yeah, it's a team where they could definitely prove me wrong. They could absolutely prove me wrong. They were my sleeper team last year. They kind of disappointed me. But yeah, I got to see this team click for me to believe that they have a chance to win the SEC title this year.
Now, I see where you're coming from. I get it. So I had Auburn at 4, and then you have. Wait, no, your
Sorry,
number 3. You
my
have
number three
Arkansas.
is different. My number three is the Arkansas Razorbacks, and I could get a lot of hate for this. I could absolutely get a lot of hate for this. But this Arkansas team is loaded with talent. Absolutely loaded with talent. And I am going to get a lot of hate for this even more because my third Final Four team is going to be the Arkansas Razorbacks. And yes, John Calipari is a choke artist. I understand. I understand. This is a brand new team, brand new area. I think it's going to gel well. You bring in the transfer from Kentucky, DJ Wagner. You bring in John L. Davis, the transfer from FAU. You bring in Therio, the transfer from Kentucky. You return Trevon Brazile. You bring in Jonas Adu from Tennessee. I mean, this team is just loaded with veteran talent. And not to mention that you got Boogie Fland coming off the bench as well. This team is absolutely loaded. John Calipari, has he been a choke artist the past few years? Yes, but I think a new scenery, he's going to remind himself of who he is. I think he's really going to remind himself of who he is, and I think Arkansas, they're not going to win the SEC title, but I think that they're going to make a run, and they're going to be a Final Four team this year. So they're my third Final Four team.
Yeah, I mean, I got them at 5 in the SEC for like my power rankings, but you can switch them around with any of my top 5. I agree with you. I think as long as the game don't come down the last second and John L. Davis shoots some bullshit,
Yeah,
you're good.
yeah.
Nah, but I like you said, they're deep. They got the talent. The player I'm probably most excited to see out of this conference this year is DJ Wagner
Mm-hmm.
because
How much
last
can
year,
he grow?
yeah, because last year arguably you can say he struggled a lot. You watch him play. struggled, right?
Yeah, no, he
Uh,
did. He when you're the number one player coming out of high school and you got all that pressure on you, I can understand it. You can definitely understand it. But no, he didn't shine like everybody thought he was. And like I said, same with John Calipari. I think new scenery, new teammates. He's really going to take that next step forward.
yeah. So for me, it's I don't want to say there's. I would say there's more pressure on him this year compared to last year, but I'd be lying to say that there still isn't that same amount of
Oh
pressure
yeah, no, there absolutely
because
is.
because you come in number one ranked recruit, your coach leaves, he takes you with him. You're gonna start there, and if you fail, you're done. Your career is done. You're gonna be playing that fucking Furman next year or something, and I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of pressure on this team, and if they can perform under that pressure, they'll be good. But that's why I got them at 5. So they're still ranked high, but I want to see them work in action. So then,
My number 4 is different from your number 4. I've got the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And this is
I'm
going to come to a shock, I think, to a lot of people. I don't think people. I think I'm the highest on Mississippi State this year by far.
yeah, I'm not too far off. I'm at number 7 with them. But yeah, go ahead.
I just absolutely love this roster. I absolutely love this roster. I think it is built absolutely perfectly. Josh Hubbard at point guard coming in, returning. He's a star. Riley Kugel transfer from Florida. He's a star. R.J. Melendez transfer from Georgia. If you don't know who R.J. Melendez is, this guy,
Nah, come on,
he's
man.
great.
Don't
R.J.
start.
Melendez is a
He
phenomenal,
sucks, bro.
phenomenal talent, and he is going to
Oh,
make this Mississippi State team better,
come
along
on,
with Cam
man.
Matthews and Michael Nawaka, the transfer from Miami. I just love how this roster is built. This team's going to be able to score. They're going to be able to play defense. Now, it is going to be a smaller team. It's going to be a smaller team. Cam Matthews is a small forward projected to start at the 4, so it's going to be a smaller team. So maybe that hurts them, but they got the speed to where they can play up to fast. They're just a great defensive team, and then Keyshawn Murphy, the 6 man coming off the bench. I just love this Mississippi State team, and that's why I have them up at number 4.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt here, but you forgot one more point guard that they have.
Who did I forget?
Kanye Clary.
Oh yeah, okay.
Shit. If Kanye, hey,
He's coming off the bench too.
dude, that's
Like I said, I
insane.
love this roster. I love this roster. It's built.
That's
I think
insane to
this
me.
roster is built perfectly.
I got him at 7, so I'm not too far behind. The only reason I got them behind is because of the talent. And but if they play as a team, it's gonna the talent. You can throw all that out the window because
hmm
the talent that they do have is going to. If they play as a team, is gonna be above everybody else. And I know I shit on R.J. Melendez all the time because ex-Illinois guy went to Georgia, played like. I mean, he didn't play like shit at Georgia. He didn't really have no help.
He was the team at Georgia. He literally was the team.
Which is sad when R.J. Melendez is your team at
Like he
Georgia.
was the team.
But yeah, this gives him an opportunity to actually play the position that he played at Illinois, and he'll have that sharpshooter role that he's been wanting his whole college career. So I don't blame him for transferring to Mississippi State. And then you look at Kanye Clary and Claudel Harris. They both produced at a high level in conferences that were arguably the same caliber, if not better. Uh, if they run them at the 1-2, shit, it's gonna be a problem.
This is
So
a dark horse to win the conference. This is a
I
dark horse to
must,
win the conference.
yep, I agree with you 100%.
The Ole Miss Mississippi State rivalry game in basketball is going to be a very fun game to watch this year.
Yeah, nah, that was last year that shit was awesome too.
Mm-hmm. It was
Although,
electric. The dude mopping the
they
floor.
should beat their ass,
The
but
dude mopping the floor.
yeah, shout
That
out
guy.
to that.
I hope he's back this year. He
Yeah.
he makes college basketball better.
And then
Already
so
won
you
over my
had,
number 5 and your number 5.
yep.
We
So then
both
we go
got the
number
same
6.
6. Yep.
So number 6, we got Kentucky. Do you want to go first or me?
Yeah, no, I'll go first here. So Kentucky, Mark Pope coming in as the head coach. He's a great coach. You bring in the transfer, and again, let me reiterate this: a team starting of all transfers coming in here. Lamont Butler transfer from San Diego State. Kobe Bray transfer from Dayton. Jackson Robinson. Andy Carr transfer from Wake Forest. Amari Williams transfer for Drexel. Amari Williams, a guy going to Kentucky, man. I watching him at Newman Goretti. Definitely did not think he was going to end up being an SEC college basketball player someday, but there he is. There he is, and he's a little undersized to play center, but I think I like it though. And you got Brandon Garrison, who's a backup big who you could play in for Amari Williams. He transferred from Oklahoma State, and this team's just deep. You know, it's a deep veteran team, full of a bunch of transfers, a bunch of transfers from all over the place. I think this team starts out slow. I do, just because it's a brand new coach. It's all transfers. You're going to have to give them time to gel. But by conference play, I think they figured things out. But I just think the teams in front of them are more talented, and that's why I got them down here at number 5. Sorry, 6, number 6.
Yeah, I mean, well, first, before I talk about Kentucky, shout out to my boy Andy Carr. Proud of him. Bro started off at Delaware, went to Wake Forest, transferred to Kentucky. Now it's your time to shine. So, but yeah, I mean, going off this is you got Fairleigh Dickinson transfer, Ansley Elmore, 17 points per game. Jackson Robinson from BYU, 14 points per game. Lamont Butler from San Diego State. I mean, the talent list on this team goes on and on and on. And it's just a matter of gelling. And that's one thing that Mark Pope can do. So, I think having them at 6 is a very equal rating for both of us. And until they prove us right or wrong, I think 6 is the right spot that anybody would have them at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And your number 7 was Mississippi State. We already went over them. So my number 7, the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators, been a long time coming to see the Florida Gators get back to the top end of the SEC for sure. Walter Clayton is an absolute stud. I love Walter Clayton. Elijah Martin, the transfer from FAU, I think he's going to come in and play well. Will Reichert, a great shooter to have. Sam Alexis, transfer from Chattanooga, can stretch the floor. And then what I think to be one of the most underrated big men in all of college basketball, Alex Condon. He's a great player. He doesn't get enough credit that he deserves. This is, again, a veteran team, but the issue with this Florida team, the depth is in question. There's not much depth on this team. It's really just the starting lineup, and that's really it. I don't know who's going to really come off the bench for them. So maybe you could say, oh, you have them a little too high. But this starting lineup, I think, is good enough to compete with anybody in the SEC at this range, I should say. And that's why I got the Gators at number 7.
Yeah, I mean, you got them at 7. I got them at 9 here.
Pretty similar.
Yeah, for the only reason I got them a little bit lower is because they lost Riley Kugel.
They did, and that was a big loss.
And they lost Zion Poulin. So for me, it's just the losses they had outweigh the guys they brought in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So,
no, I can understand
So for me, that's why I dropped them down a little bit. I think they'll be a middle of the pack team. There's one player I am excited to watch play and hope he gets some playing time, and that's Isaiah Brown, 4-star recruit. I hope that he gets in the game a little bit sometime this year just to watch him play. But with all the talent in the SEC, it's going to be tough for Florida, I think, to compete with the big dogs.
Absolutely. And I think my 7 through 10 here, you could argue that they can be rearranged in any order for sure. And then I think the top 10 SEC teams, they'll be NCAA teams. And then I think your 11, the team that I have at 11 and the team that you have at 11, I think is a perfect definition of a bubble team. And then I think the 12 through 16 just doesn't stand a chance this year. But back to what we got. My number 8 team is Texas A&M. why don't we go over Texas A&M here first, and then we'll get to your number 8 team.
Yeah, I look at this A&M team. They return Wade Taylor. Wade Taylor is an absolute dog. Averaged 20 points per game last year. They do bring in Zurich Phelps from SMU. He is a monster as well. But from those two players, I don't really see much help that they have this year. They do return Henry Coleman and Solomon Washington from last year. Solomon Washington is a great big man, but I do expect to see some regression from A&M this season compared to last season. It's just hard for me to see them compete at the same level as last year.
Yeah, and this Texas A&M team, in my opinion, this is the definition of the boy who cried wolf. This is a team that the last 2 years, oh, this team's going to be so good. They're going to be competing in the SEC. No. Oh, they're going to be last year. Oh, they're going to be so good. Competing in the SEC. No. This year. Oh, they're going to be so good. They haven't proved it yet. They have not proved it yet. Wade Taylor is an amazing player. Now, he didn't show it in the NCAA tournament last year, I'll tell you that. Shooting, what was it, 3 of 28 or something like that?
Yeah.
It was awful. Absolutely
Yeah, no, it is
awful.
bad.
Texas A&M, good roster. We know they have a good roster, but they just haven't proven it over the years, and that's why I got them the whole way down here at 8. A lot of people have them way higher than this. I think me and you have them more at a realistic spot. You have them at 9. I have them at 8. And yeah, I think Texas A&M, I think 8, 9, 10 is definitely the range. I got them at 8, though.
Yeah, you want to hit my number 18?
Yeah, because your number 8 is my number 9.
Yeah, so I got my Longhorns at number 8. I think that's a very realistic, non-biased rating, I'd say.
I absolutely
right?
agree. I absolutely agree.
Okay, all right. I think they got a lot of talent this year. It just depends on how they're going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their best 4 players. Max Abmas, without him, whole offense, they got reorientate everything. You still got Caden Shedrick, which seems like he has been in college basketball for 15 years now.
5th-year senior, I believe, this year.
Makes sense. And they got Kendall Weaver returning. He's actually very good. From what I've heard on the Twitter sphere and everything, is that he has stepped up a lot. So I'm excited to watch them play Monday night. Then you look at their transfers you got Jason Kent and Julian Larry from Indiana State, which Indiana State last year should have. Did they make the tournament, or were they that team that got left out that should have?
They're the team that got left out that should have made it. They won the NIT.
Correct. So you got 2 NIT championship players that arguably next to Robbie Avila were the whole team. Then you look at who else they picked up. You got Arthur Kaluma from K-State. Jordan Pope and Tremont Mark are the other 2 pickups they got. Jordan Pope from Oregon State and Tremont Mark from Arkansas. Right? Arkansas?
Yep.
Or is it? Yep. So I look at that, and the depth they have is really good. So they should be a very solid and very good team this season. It's just, my question is, how are they going to put it all together?
Mm-hmm.
Rodney Terry has done it before, and I think we can put it together. It's just, I got us ranked lower because I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, no, you hit all the points that I wanted to hit. I mean, it's a good roster. It's a great roster, and it's a good basketball team. Are they all going to be able to gel and play together, though, is the big question. And that is the big question. Texas, definitely, like Mississippi State, a sleeper team. If they gel and they play together, they're going to be competing, I think, for an SEC title. But you have them at 8, I have them at 9. I think we're right in the middle of them because we just don't know if they're going to be able to gel. But it's a good Texas team, and I'm excited to watch. Do think they're going to lose to Ohio State on opening night, though.
I agree.
That's going to be a great game to watch, though. That's going to be a really fun
yeah.
game to watch.
So I have Florida at 9. You had Texas at 9. You have A&M at 10. You got Ole Miss at 10.
Yeah.
I got A&M at 10.
And
then this is where we hit our bubble teams.
Yep.
So
our one and only bubble team, in my opinion.
So once you hit this Missouri team, I think you hit a big drop off of talent level in the Big 12. I mean, not Big 12, Jesus, in the SEC. Um, I look at their offense, right? Tony Perkins, Mark Mitchell. That's it. Am I
Can't
right?
forget about the man who almost got banned from college basketball for a gambling violation, Caleb Grill. Cannot forget about Caleb Grill, the
Oh
former
shit!
Iowa State Cyclone. Dude's a
My
good
bad.
basketball player. Hands down, he's a good basketball player. And
Bro had his over.
Tamar Bates, also a highly recruited freshman, a very highly recruited freshman. He could definitely be something. I don't know if he's going to be something, but he absolutely could be something. And then Josh Gray, the transfer from South Carolina, he was a big part of that team. He was a really big part of that team. I think Missouri is going to be very much improved from last year. They were horrible last year. I think they're going to be a lot improved. But and it's a veteran team. I think they do have a bright future as the recruits look good, but this team has no depth at all, and that's why they're down here at number 11. There is almost no bench players that can come off this team and perform. It is going to be the starting lineup, and the starting lineup will take this team as far as it goes, and that's why they're down here at 11. That's why they're the definition of a bubble team. I think they're a first four out team and an NIT team this year, but much improved from last year.
Yeah, nah, I agree. Um, so our 12 through 16. You just want to go through these real quick.
Yeah, yeah. So your
So
12 is Georgia. I have Georgia at 14. Georgia is just simply, I just don't. Georgia's just never good at the game of basketball. It's just it's as simple as that. The roster's not bad. It's not terrible. So Solias Demry. It's a good team. He's a good player, but I mean the rest of it. I do like R.J. Godfrey, the transfer from Clemson. He's going to be coming off the bench. Honestly, you could potentially start him over Asa Newell. I think they just put Newell in there to start over him off of the fact that he was there last year. But it's a team. I think it's just going to be the same as last year. They're going to beat up on the worser teams. Although I have them ranked at 14, so they're gonna beat up on the 15 and 16 team or something like that. But Georgia, yeah, I just no, I don't think they're gonna be that good. And yeah,
they love taking players from the MAAC.
yes they
It's
do.
weird.
Yes they do.
So like they got Dakota LaFew coming in and Deshane Montgomery. Dakota LaFew, he played at Mount St. Mary's. They both played at Mount St. Mary's. But Dakota LaFew is actually very good. He was their only player that was any good when I went down there last year. Speaking of that, we're gonna go to Mount St. Mary's game this year. I just gotta find out when. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they always recruit these kids from. They always try to take these kids from the MAAC conference and pray that they're good. But
And it
yeah, I
never
don't see
turns
much.
out. It never
Yeah,
turns out.
the dude got Samto Cyril coming in as a freshman. He's an absolute monster. Kid's massive. But yeah, no, I don't see much out of them.
Yeah, and my number 12 team then is Oklahoma. Oklahoma, I got them at number 12 just off the fact of it's a team full of seniors and grad transfers, and I think a veteran team like that is just not going to finish in last place in a conference. That is the only reason I have Oklahoma at number 12. Other than that, I mean, I don't. They're not an NCAA tournament team. They might make the NIT, but yeah, that's my opinion on Oklahoma.
Nah, I don't have no comment on Oklahoma. Really, I don't have much to say on them.
Where
Or
do you have them finishing real quick?
last.
There you go. That's your only comment on Oklahoma. My 13 team is the same as your 13 team, South Carolina. Sucks to see this team lose so much.
Yeah,
Really
I feel
sucks to
bad.
see this team because he's a great coach.
Feel bad for
He's a
Lamont
great
Paris,
coach,
man. Yeah, they lost too much.
and they
Didn't get
didn't
enough.
get the talent in return that they lost, and that's
Correct.
why I have them at 13. Who knows what the future looks like? I think with Lamont Paris at head coach, I think the future is very bright. But you're bringing in Eli Ellis next year, so I mean that's a big time recruit. And let's see if he can bring in any more recruits with Eli Ellis to make this team better.
Yeah. Then what? We got LSU.
I believe, yes, I believe I have LSU at 15. Do you
LSU
have
at
LSU at
15. I got
15?
them at 14.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there ain't really much to touch on LSU. They
They're
lost
just
4 of their 5
bad.
starters.
They were terrible last year, and they didn't do anything to improve to get better this year.
Correct. Yeah. So we don't really gotta go much in depth in
And
that.
then
And then
my
we got
last
Vanderbilt.
place team is Vanderbilt. You got them at 15. Vanderbilt, I mean, this is just interesting. This team, it's mind-boggling. So you bring in the transfer point guard, the 6-year senior AJ Hogard from Michigan State. They're paying him $800,000. And by the way, if you didn't know, this team is going to be starting all transfers. That's a reason I think they're going to struggle, and their only good player, in my personal opinion, is AJ Hogard. I mean, they're bringing in a transfer named Devin McLaughlin. His last name is McLaughlin. Parents, if you go to a Vanderbilt basketball game this year, hide your children, all right? Hide the kids. Please hide the kids. Because if there's a man with the last name McLaughlin in the arena, you're in a dangerous situation. You're putting your kids in danger. Hide the children if you go to a Vanderbilt basketball game this year. This team's terrible. Don't go to a Vanderbilt basketball game this year. Vanderbilt versus Colorado. We got to get it set up.
Nah,
Vanderbilt would
for
probably
real.
win though. You got any comment on Vanderbilt?
Nah, AJ Hoggard. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
um. So
He
yeah,
sold
so
out
we
for the
got.
money. Oh my lord.
So lastly,
Our
I think
final
we made it
conference.
to our last conference here.
Yes, we did.
We made it to the ACC.
And I think we have a clear number one here
Yeah,
in the
and
ACC.
and we can preface the ACC by saying I'm not gonna take any credit out of my top 4 teams here at the ACC, but there's a clear top 4, and then there's a drop off. This might be the lowest ACC caliber of teams that I've ever seen in my life, like talent wise. I've never seen the ACC be so down in my life. Have you? Have you ever seen the talent pool be this down
Yeah,
in the
no, the
ACC?
ACC is a complete and utter disaster this year. It's the worst Power Five conference by far. It's
Like I
I
said,
think in the ACC, in my opinion, I think 7 teams are going to make the NCAA tournament. I think you're going to have 8, 9, and 10 be on the bubble, and after that, I mean maybe 11, but after that 12 through 18, it's bad and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So
I mean, so
it's
our
a conference that's
rankings.
going to be weak, and I think that's going to actually hurt. I think that's going to hurt my Duke Blue Devils because, well, I stand corrected. We have a very tough schedule this year, so our non-conference opponents are. We can still get ranked very high because of our non-conference opponents. But a team like Wake Forest, say they only have 2 losses, they're not going to be able to pick up quality wins in the ACC. They're just not because there's not going to be many teams ranked out of the ACC.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, our clear number one is Duke. I mean, and like take all the bias out the picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only returning Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Foster, you would think Duke would have a down year,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
No.
Well, you thought wrong.
No.
They have 6 5-star recruits that have came in and are ready to make an instant impact.
Yep.
I'm sure everyone knows who Cooper Flag is, without doubt.
If Cooper
Through everything.
Flag is as good as Cooper Flag says he will win me a national championship this year.
Correct, but according to secret scrimmages and the practices, Con Newpel is supposed to be the second leading scorer for Duke this season.
He is unbelievable.
And
This
that
guy
kid must be
is
a monster.
unbelievable. He's
So
doing stuff. Him and Cooper Flag are doing stuff that only you've seen Michael Jordan and LeBron James do. And
I mean,
that's
yeah,
scary to say.
you look at their bench, right? So your starting five, you
It's
got
unbelievable.
Proctor, Foster, Nupel, Flag, Kaman, Maluak. Kaman is a dog too. Bro's like
Mm-hmm.
7'2".
Yep.
And then you look at what else you got. The depth. You got Mason Gillis coming in from Purdue.
I hate Mason Gillis with every ounce of my body. I wish we would have
Really?
never picked him up. I hated him at
Damn.
Purdue. He's a good basketball player, a pussy at heart, though. And we don't need any pussies on the Duke basketball roster.
Then you got Damian Harris, 4-star.
4-star sharpshooter, man.
And then you got Zion Harris.
Zion
Transfer
Harris,
from
yeah.
Tulane.
Is a transfer from
Like,
Tulane.
You
Right?
look at this team and the depth they have.
Oh, it's
like,
unbelievable.
Yeah, so, I mean,
And
that's
the big
that's what I
question
got
is
from Duke.
here. It's a young team, and can they compete with the veteran teams? And that's the big question. And you're going to see that very soon because they got a date with Kansas very soon, and you're going to see right away, is Duke that national championship contender that they say they're going to be? Because that is you arguably the youngest team in college basketball versus the most veteran team in college basketball. Duke versus Kansas. And but it's probably bias, probably a little bias. I think you could argue a lot of teams for my Final Four spot, but I got Duke as my last team in my Final Four. Little bias, little bias. We can go over other teams though at another time that I think could
Yeah,
potentially go into the Final Four. But so my Final Four: Kansas, Baylor, Arkansas, and Duke.
yeah, no, I understand that 100%. Then we look at our number two. Our number two,
Your number 2 is my number 3, and honestly, I absolutely understand why you have them at number 2. But go
yeah,
ahead, you started off.
yeah. So I got Louisville as my number two. I, I mean, you can make an argument as to why I did that,
It's a
but
good team,
I look at their
great
roster,
team.
and let me find it. Look at their roster. You got Chucky Hepburn, transfer from Wisconsin.
Hmm.
Terrence Edwards Jr., best player for James Madison last year.
Yep.
Javon Hadley, bro. I'm not gonna say he was the best player for Colorado because it was KJ Simpson and Cody Williams.
Oh yeah.
But Hadley was a third on that team.
Yep.
Noah Waterman, one of the best players from BYU.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna talk about the 5 because I fucking hate him.
He's an underrated center. He's very
Well, he can be an
talented.
underrated center all he wants.
Very
But
talented.
But then you got Abubakar Traore from Long Beach State,
Yep.
another Traore.
The Traore family is taking every basketball, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their bench, right? Corinne Johnson, Washington. Rain Smith, Charleston. Abubakar Traore, Long Beach State. Ali Khalifa from BYU. That's 4 players coming off their bench that could
It's a
go
deep
in.
team. It's a deep team, and everybody can shoot. Everybody on this
Yeah,
team can shoot. It's a
except
dangerous
Tayshaun
team.
Pryor.
I absolutely understand why you have them at number 2. The only reason I don't have them at number 2 and I have them at number 3 is we'll go over my number 2 in a second, but I have them at number 3 because it's a team of all 5 transfers and you just don't know if they're going to gel. If they gel, absolutely, this team is number 2 and ahead of my number 2. But the question mark there is you don't know, and the team that I have at number 2, you know what to expect from them, and you know what you're going to get from them.
We going down there for a game?
I mean, I wish. You want to pay $900 for a Duke basketball ticket, man? Yeah.
No, not for Duke. I'm talking Louisville.
Oh, yeah. There's a chance actually. I could
Yeah.
get in touch. I'll see actually. There's a chance. So my number 2 is North Carolina. And I have North Carolina there just because it seems like the ACC is becoming Duke and North Carolina are above the rest. You return this is arguably the best player in college basketball, R.J. Davis. I mean, you could argue that he is the best player in college basketball, fifth-year senior, absolute star. Elliot Kadu, you're going to need him to step up. Ian Jackson, stud freshman. Cade Tyson, transfer from Belmont. He's a stretch 4. And then Jalen Washington, also a stretch 5. And then Seth Trimble, arguably, Seth Trimble might get the starting spot over Ian Jackson. I mean, he just dropped 34 on Memphis in their secret scrimmage. So, but if that's a six-man coming off the bench, the thing is with North Carolina, I mean, they have all these star guards. Drake Powell, three-star recruit with high potential, who's also a backup guard. But the issue with North Carolina is the big men this year. You lose Armando Bacot. Can Jalen Washington fill Bacot's shoes? I don't know. Can Cade Tyson come in and be able to do so? I don't know. And that's going to be a huge problem when they play Duke because Duke is massive. Duke is massive and can potentially eat them up down low. I have them at number two because I know what to expect from North Carolina. This is going to be a good quality basketball team, and they're gonna put up their points. And the star guards are going to be able to carry this team to a lot of wins, and that's why I got them at number two. Where do you have North Carolina?
Um, I got them at number 4, so I'm not too far behind. I I think the key to this team's success is going to roll through Elliot Cadeau. If he can find ways to score this season, then Carolina will be a big problem. If he can't, then I don't think there will be much to worry about with this team, because if you shut down R.J. Davis, there ain't going to be much else scoring-wise to worry about. Like you said, Ian Jackson did go crazy in a secret scrimmage, but as the man John Rothstein always says, you can't react to secret scrimmages.
Mm-hmm.
Can't overreact. I mean, yeah, they're going to have to run small ball majority of the time, which is going to hurt them in the long run for this conference. But, yeah, like I said, Elliot Cadeau, if he has a good season, then they are going to be an amazing team.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. He needs to step up this year. North Carolina wants to be contenders in the ACC at least.
Yep. So then at 3, you had Louisville.
Let's go over your number 3.
And then at 3, I got Miami. Where you got Miami?
I got Miami at 7. I'm a little lower on this team. They disappointed last year. I think they're going to be a good team. I don't think they're going to be a great team though. That's why I got them at 7. I think they're a middle of the pack, middle of the road team. Speaking of pack, Nigel Pack going to be leading the team. The 5-star Jaleel Bethea. I think I've seen more Jaleel Bethea than just about anybody on this planet. I've watched Jaleel Bethea grow up from freshman to senior year, watching Archbishop Wood basketball, and he's probably going to be one and done and go to the NBA. All he's got to do is get this mental mind in check, and he's going to the NBA. He's got all the gifts and all the talent in the world to be an NBA player. And he's going to be a star. Matthew Cleveland, veteran player. Brandon Johnson, the transfer from East Carolina. It's a veteran Miami team. I think it's a good Miami team. I don't think it's a great Miami team. And I think it's the last ACC team that sneaks into the NCAA tournament as maybe I don't want to say last 4 in. I think they're a little better than a last 4 in team, but kind of maybe like that 10 seed.
Yeah. Yeah, the backcourt on this team, I just love it. I love it. Nigel Pack and Jaleel Bethea together. It's nice to see Nigel Pack finally get a little weight off his shoulders. And for so many years, you've seen him carry every team that he's played for. Finally, he gets a year where he can sit back, chill out, hit a few threes, let Jaleel Bethea run the show. Like, be honest, this is Jaleel Bethea's year. This is his turn to run the show.
This is his team. This is Jaleel Bethea's team.
Correct. So it'll be nice to see Nigel Pack get a secondary role as a scorer instead of being that number 1. So I look forward to it this year. And Matthew Cleveland, he can score. He can get to the bucket just as well as anybody else.
Yep.
So my question is, you know what to expect out of Pack, Bethea, and Cleveland. You don't know what to expect out of your big guys. And if their big guys can perform at a high level, this Miami team, hands down, can win the ACC.
I got you. I don't see ACC contenders, but I see at least a top 5 team. My number 4, your number 4 was North Carolina. My number 4, Clemson. Clemson, the loss of P.J. Hall is big. It really, really is big. But they bring in Jaden Zakuri, transfer from Boston College. He was one of the stars that led Boston College to the ACC Conference Final Four last year. They bring back Chase Hunter. They bring back Chauncey Wiggins. They bring back Ian Shefflin. And again, this is a veteran team. And I think this is a Clemson team that's, again, they're going to make noise. They're going to make noise in the ACC. And I just feel like their head coach, I love their head coach. I really love their head coach. I think he's a great coach. I think he's an underrated coach. Brad Brunell, that's his name. Brad Brunell, I think he's a great coach. He turns two-star talent into ACC players, not ACC players of the year, but top like all ACC second team type players. I think Brad Brunell's a great coach, and I think him bringing back 3 starters from last season is what's going to make this Clemson team a top 5 team in the ACC yet again.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I got him ranked so high, is because of that. You look at Shefflin, Hunter, Wiggins. Now, you do got to make up for Joseph Girard and P.J. Hall gone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where you got Zachary coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shefflin is the energy guy for this team. And if he was gone, I would say Clemson would be at the bottom of the list this year. But with him there, he brings so much energy and hustle that you don't really see from these kids nowadays. So I think that's why I got Clemson so high, is because of Ian Shefflin.
Yep, and you got Clemson at 5, where I have Clemson at 4. So.
Yeah.
And then your number 5, obviously Clemson. My number 5 is Pitt. Where do you have Pitt ranked?
I got him at 7.
Gotcha.
So it's not too far behind. Speaking of Pitt, when we go out to the football game, Pitt plays West Virginia that Friday night.
They do?
At Pitt, by the way. Just want to let you know.
We'll consider that. All right. Jalen Lowe. Let's go through Pitt here. Why I have them at number 5. This is a team that is they're consistently becoming good at basketball every single year. They're consistently becoming good at basketball this year. Jeff Capel, the wingman for Mike Krzyzewski. You know, he was taught by Mike Krzyzewski, and I think that's why Pitt is having so much success. They bring in Jalen Lowe, who's a star sophomore. You bring back Ishmael Leggett. You bring in a scorer in Damian Dunn, who is really going to make this team even better. You bring in Gilmero Diaz-Graham. I mean, he is arguably another underrated player. Him and his brother coming off the bench. And then Cameron Cohen, the transfer from Florida State. Could be a great pickup, kind of up in the air, but they have great depth in the front court. Not the best depth in the back court, but the back court is so good that as long as they can stay out of foul trouble, they don't really need depth in the back court. Sorry, the front court. The back court. No, I was right. The back court. And then the front court, they got all the depth in the world with Diaz-Graham's brother coming off the bench. It's a good Pitt basketball team, and I expect them to be just as good as they were last year in an NCAA tournament team again this year. That's why I got them finishing 5th.
Yeah, that Diaz-Graham guy, he reminds me of Chet Holmgren. And him and his brother have the same type of build. So I'm very excited to watch them play. I mean, I don't know what to I kind of know what to expect, but with the transfers they got in, I want to see how they perform. So they might have been a little bit higher on my list if I would have seen this team play last year a lot more, but I didn't, so that's why I got them where they are.
Gotcha. And me and you got the same number 6. It's the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, and this team was good last year, and they're going to be good again this year.
Yeah,
they're going to be good
look
again
at their
this year.
roster.
This is going to be a good Wake Forest team, and I think if you want to talk about a dark horse team in the ACC, this is your dark horse team right here.
Yeah, I mean, they did lose Andy last year, Andy Carr.
That is an unfortunate loss. That is a very unfortunate loss.
My thing is they had Efton Reed last year, who was doing the same type of stuff Andy Carr was.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not really a massive loss, I'd say. You still got Hunter Salas, Fredrickson, Hildreth. Then you bring in Omaha Blue from Iowa State. My thing is, they might be in the thick of it come
I think they
come
will be
come.
in the thick of it. And you could argue to have this team as high as 4. I'm a little lower on them just because I just think the talent on the other teams in front of them are just better. And that is the only reason. But this team, it's a good team, and you got Duke Harris, the star freshman, coming off the bench as well. It's a good Wake Forest team, and I think they're going to be pulling some upsets this year for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in the same boat as you on that one. What we got?
So my number 7 team was Miami. We already talked about it. We already talked about your number 7, Pitt. Your number 8 is NC State. Talk to me about that one, and I'll get to my number 8 then.
Yeah, I mean NC State. You look at them. You lose DJ Burns. You lose DJ Horn. Uh, my thing is that you bring in Marcus Hill, who easily could have been MAC Player of the Year, averaged 21 points per game and 6 rebounds a game. Not to mention, they also bring in Brandon Hintley Hatfield from Louisville. Hatfield was averaging 13 points a game at Louisville, and that's in the ACC. So he's just making a lateral move over to NC State. So I expect them to be middle of the pack. You still got O'Connell, still got Jaden Taylor. You do bring in Dontrez Styles from Georgetown, Paul McNeil, 3-star recruit, Ben Middlebrooks, good defender. This team's got a lot of experience, so I think the experience is going to keep them in a lot of games this year and keep them middle of the pack.
Yeah, I am lower on NC State. I have the Wolfpack at 13 in my ACC rankings. I think they're going to miss the NCAA tournament this year after being a Final Four team last year. I just I understand they do have Ben Middlebrooks coming off the bench, great defender. It's a veteran team. You do have a 3-star freshman in Paul McNeil who's going to come off the bench as well. The transfers, it's just other than Brandon Hintley Hatfield and Michael O'Connell, who wasn't a transfer, he's on the team last year. I just don't know who's really going to be able to contribute for this team. I think they're pretty much a big question mark. I get what you're saying with the veteran presence of why they can compete in the middle of the pack in the ACC, so I can understand why you have them that high. I just think the expectations are a lot lower for NC State this year, and I just don't see them being able to. I just don't see them being able to get back to where they were last year, and that's why I have them at 13.
I mean, we look at your number.
My number 8 is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and this team was
What?
awful last year, but this is an up and coming team, man. The future for Notre Dame is bright. They already have 2025 5-stars committed to come to their team next year. Notre Dame is up and coming. The future is bright for the Irish. But to talk about this season, the reason I got them number 8, you're returning absolutely everybody. They didn't lose a single player from last year. It was a rough season last year. I think that a lot of the kids learned from last year. Marcus Burton is a very good point guard. Sir Muhammad is a 4-star freshman coming in. Trey Davis, Keba Nigel, 2 players, hopefully that they learned and grew, and then not to mention that you got one of the best shooters in the ACC and Micah Shrewsbury's son coming off the bench. So this is an up and coming team. I think this definitely shocks a lot of people because I don't think a lot of people think that they aren't ready to take the next step and get to that middle of the pack level of the ACC. I think they are ready to get to the middle of the pack in the ACC, and that's why I got them at number 8. Where do you got Notre
Nah,
Dame
bro, I
standing?
can't get behind them. I can't.
You can't get behind him. You're not a believer in Mr. Shrewsbury.
I can't. I cannot. I got them at 13. Now, granted, they aren't the whole way at the bottom at 18 because there's teams worse than them in the ACC. But it's hard. After last season's team, it's just hard for me to get behind them and put them up at a higher rank than what I think they should be. Personally, I think they struggled too much for me to put them up there. I think putting them at 13 was generous. Like, generous. I They lost so much talent that it's hard for me to believe in them.
I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Shrewsbury. I really am. And the future for Notre Dame basketball is very, very bright. It really is.
So what do we got at 9?
My
You got
number
Virginia.
9 is Virginia. And I get it. Tony Bennett's gone. We don't even know who their head coach is. But the roster is still good. I mean, the roster is good to be a middle of the pack team in the ACC. You bring in Day Ames, the transfer from Kansas State. He's a good player. You bring back Isaac McNeely, brother of Liam McNeely, sharpshooter that can really fill out. You bring in Jalen Warley, a senior transfer from Florida State. He's an NBA prospect. You bring in the sharpshooter in TJ Power, the transfer from Duke. And then you got Blake Buchanan, the returning big man and returning player on this Virginia team. And you know they're going to be good on the defensive end. And I think if Tony Bennett would have stayed, this team would have been higher in my rankings because this year, this team's going to be able to put up points. They have an offense this year. You have two players in Day Ames and Jalen Warley that are going to be able to score off the dribble, and you got Isaac McNeely and T.J. Power that are going to be able to sit in those corners and knock down those threes. Virginia, if Tony Bennett was still there, I'd call them a sleeper team in the ACC this year. But without Tony Bennett, you just don't know really what's going to happen. That's why I have them down here at number 9 in the middle of the pack, is because this team has a high ceiling but a low floor because of the question mark at head coach.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But for me, when you lose Reese Beekman and Ryan Dunn, that's your whole offense.
Losses. Yep.
Um,
Well, I will say, I think they replaced him with better offensive players, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, without Tony Bennett, though, that's what really put the hurting on me for
the nail in the coffin. Yeah, no, I can understand.
Yeah, for why I got them so low.
If they had a roster similar to last year and Tony Bennett would have retired, I would have had them probably where you have them. But because I like how the roster looks and how this team pans out, that's why I have them at 9.
No, I get that. My number 9, I got SMU.
I have SMU at 11. I'm a little lower on SMU, but I can definitely understand probably why you have it at 9. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, last year I had really high hopes for this team. I thought they were going to be very good. They do return Chucky Harris, which he's a vet to college basketball. He's been doing it for a while. And here we go. We come back to his name again. You got Johan Traore. There's another one. He's going to be their starting center. He's a transfer from UC Santa Barbara.
You got to count how many Traores are in college basketball.
There's so many of them.
You got to count.
Kevin Miller, we talked about transfer from Wake Forest earlier. He's going to be their starting point guard. Chuck Harris is going to get shooting guard role back again. He was their starting point guard last year. You got Kario Kendo coming in from Oregon. Matt Cross coming in from UMass. Look at their front court. It's all...
The front court's a question. The front court... That's why I have them down at number 11. Is because the front court.
Look at that back court, though.
The front court is a giant question mark.
Anybody with the name Traore is gonna be jacked and like 7 foot tall.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But no, I look at their backcourt with Chuck Harris, Kevin Miller, and fuck it, I'm gonna throw a Kendo in there too. I look at those guys and I just think, damn man, like. All their front court has to do is just set screens, get these guys open, and it will be successful. So that's why I got them where they are, is because I can see them being very good.
And I understand that. I'm a little lower. I got them at number 11. I have them at number 11 because the front court is a big question, and a brand new head coach and 4 of their 5 starters are transfers. So, new head coach. 4 out of 5 starters are transfers. That's why I got them at number 11. I think they could definitely be higher, and I definitely think you could put them up at number 9 if this pans out to be a good team. Because it's a veteran team. It's a veteran team that's going to be able to compete with the good teams, but I don't think they're going to be able to compete with great teams at all. I think the great teams like Louisville, North Carolina, and Duke are going to trounce them. But SMU, I get that. I got them at 11. I do think they're going to miss the NCAA tournament this year.
Yep. And then who
My
you got
number
number
10 is Georgia Tech. You have Georgia
I got
Tech
him
at
at
11.
11.
So, yeah, we're pretty similar on Georgia Tech. It'll be an all right team. I think Georgia Tech is the definition of a mid team. They bring back their two-star sophomores and Nathan George and Bay and Gago. These two guys as freshmen last year were very good, very good. They're up and coming, and I like the transfer Jevion McCollum out of Oklahoma. I think he's very good. He's very good. I think he's going to pan in well. The issue with this Georgia Tech team is there's absolutely no depth. There's nobody to come off the bench. This is really a three-man band team, and I think the three-man band is going to pan out, and that's why I have them as high as I do at number 10.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I'm in the same boat as you. Three returning starters. They aren't bad. They aren't superstars either. They do got Jalen McCullum, the guy you talk about, the Oklahoma transfer. But if they get into foul trouble, that they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but other than that, I got yeah. So that's why we got them at the same spot. I believe is because of that.
You had a different number 10. Who did you have at number 10?
I did have a different number 10. My number 10 was Syracuse.
And I had Syracuse at number 12, so not far off there.
Yeah, I had the same Syracuse team that struggled against Slippery Rock the other day. Shout out to PSAC basketball, by the way. Love to see it. Shout out Lockhaven. So I look at the Syracuse team. Literally is just Eddie Lampkin and JJ Starling. Joel, if you're listening to this, I know you miss Eddie Lampkin. You can take him back whenever you want. I'm sure Syracuse fans probably will say the same thing.
This is... I think we have Syracuse at 10. You have them at 10 and I have them at 12. And there's 16 teams in this conference. This just shows you how bad the bottom of the ACC is. This shows you really how bad the bottom of the ACC is.
Now, there's one player that I would love to see get a more involved role. I know his season didn't start yet and we didn't get to watch him play. But that's Jair Davis. He's a transfer from Delaware. He's going to be coming off the bench. He's a great scoring threat. Averaged 12 to 14 points per game last year. Absolute monster. But I do expect Syracuse to be a lower end team. Shout out Chance Westry.
Chance Westry and Quadir Copeland. Quadir Copeland, the Gettysburg High School graduate.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the backcourt for Syracuse has a lot of guards. Very little centers. The grad transfer, Eddie Lampkin, I mean, he is a known quitter. He quit on TCU. Syracuse fans, don't be surprised if he quits midway through the season if you have a bad record. JJ Starling is a guy that I wish would just, man, he was so good in high school. I wish he would just be successful in college. His potential's there. He just hasn't been able to grab that step, and maybe it's because he's at Syracuse. That's why he hasn't been able to grab that step. But, yeah, it's just a team that's, they'll be all right. They'll be all right, and they're not going to be able to compete with the top dogs. Maybe with the good teams they'll be able to compete, but it's just not that good of a team. It's not an NCAA tournament team. And none of these teams we talk about the rest of the way are NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah, I was about to say, do we just want to touch real quick on our 14 through 18?
Yeah, so pretty much I'll just go through here my 15 through because I had NC State at 13. We already talked about them. Virginia Tech is probably the only last team I'd want to talk about. But Stanford, Florida State, Cal, Boston College, all terrible basketball teams. Boston College up there with Colorado, and DePaul is the worst team in all of college basketball. Cal, just a rebuilding year. Florida State, great coach. I don't know how he hasn't been fired yet. They haven't been good in such a long time. Stanford lost a lot in the transfer portal. Didn't gain much back because of their grade rules. Stanford just joined the Ivy League already, please. And then you had Virginia Tech also at 14, so why don't you go through? Do you want to say anything about Cal, Stanford, Boston College, or Florida State real quick?
The only team that I will touch on a little bit here is Cal. And then I'm going to give a funky fact about Stanford, okay? they picked up a Virginia lacrosse player this year to play on their basketball team. I'm gonna just throw that out there. That's how down bad they are. They got a player that played lacrosse for Virginia
Join the Ivy
coming
League.
in.
Join the Ivy
So,
League. Please. Join the Ivy League.
uh, I will talk about Cal a little bit. Uh, I like the talent they brought in. You got Stojakovic. He is related to the great, what is
Peja.
it, Pistol Pete?
Peja Stojakovic.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Uh, do got Javon Blackshear from Grand Canyon coming in. It's really it. Sissoko from Michigan State.
Yeah,
I think Cal.
really, it's not a bad team. I just think it's a rebuilding year. That's all I
Yeah,
think it is. I
like
think it's a
Cal's not going to be
rebuilding
bad,
year.
but they also aren't going to be good. So I do like that.
You could argue to put Cal ahead of Virginia Tech. You could.
Yeah.
But I'll explain why I have Virginia Tech ahead of those bottom teams here in a second, though, because I have them at 14.
So
you
yeah,
have
so
them at
that's
14.
that's really all I got. Florida State's gonna be awful. Boston
Yeah.
College is gonna be awful.
Yeah.
I got Virginia Tech at 14. You got them at 14.
Yeah, I just like the transfers they brought in, and that's why I have them ahead of them. Heiser Miller, again, Newman Goretti graduate, watched him play a lot in high school. 4 years at Temple, he's a grad transfer. He'll be a good point guard. Jaden Shute, transfer from Duke, really didn't get a chance to play at Duke. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to help Virginia Tech a lot. Ben Ballman, transfer from Charleston, sharpshooter, and Toby Lawal, transfer from Virginia Comet World. Just a good power forward to have. And the reason why are you saying, oh, you like this team? Well, they have no depth. They have nobody to come off the bench. That's why they're down at 14. But a team that will have a good starting five and will be able to, maybe you could take them to cover some first halves, and maybe you can. We'll have to look into that coming so. But yeah, that's the ACC, and that's the
Power
preseason. That's the preseason.
So
Now, if we got one more little segment to go, the Power 5 games of the week and the non-Power 5 games of the week, and then we'll get
yeah,
on out of here.
we'll do that, and then I want to do our national championship game prediction.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so I'll let you hit your Power 5 games of the week.
Yep, so opening night, all three of these games are going to be on opening night, and these are the Monday through Thursday games. Obviously, there's a big game next Friday, but we'll hit that on the next week's show because it'll be posted by then. But obviously, number 6 Baylor, number 8 Gonzaga. An 11:30 p.m. tip-off is criminal. It is absolutely criminal.
Unless you work night shift.
Yeah, it is absolutely criminal. I'm going to stay up and watch this game. It's going to be an unbelievable game. It's going to be an unbelievable game. It's going to go back and forth. My prediction, Baylor walks into Spokane, Washington, and beats Gonzaga 75-71 on opening night. It's going to be a great game, and I can't wait for it. What is your prediction of this game?
I think Gonzaga beats the brakes off them. I mean, I'm not as high on Baylor as you are, as we talked about earlier. And also, I love Nembhard and EK. That combination is freaking amazing. And I loved it last year, and I'm going to love it this year. And I think Baylor is going to take a while to gel, so I think it's a good spot to get Gonzaga -4.5, whatever it is. I think they win by 10.
And it wouldn't shock me if Gonzaga won. It really wouldn't shock me if Gonzaga won. They're a national championship contender just like the rest of the top 10. So, I mean, it's an upset, but in my opinion, it's not a massive upset if Gonzaga beats Baylor for sure. Second game I want to talk about, Texas A&M versus UCF. 7 o'clock tip-off on ESPN+. Number 13, Texas A&M going to UCF. We know that Texas A&M likes to start off slow, and we talked about UCF, and if they can play together well, they're going to get the job done. I think we see our first upset of the college basketball season, and UCF takes down Texas A&M 70-67 in a classic game. Give me the Knights on this one. Texas A&M fans, you'll be pissed. Cry about it.
No, I'm in the same boat. I'm excited to watch Dior Johnson and Mikey Williams play together.
That'll be the 7 o'clock game I watch by far.
And I don't want to say that this will reflect their season, but it will play a big role on how they respond, win or lose this game. Their next game they play, how they respond, whether they win or lose. The next game they play, whoever they play, how they respond is going to reflect how their season will go. So I really think, will UCF win? I hope so. Will they? I don't know. Uh, if I had to give a prediction, I would say it'd be like a 2-3 point game either way. I think it's a very close game, but give me UCF by like 2.
And my final game of the week, 10 p.m. tip-off on TNT, Ohio State and Texas. Neutral site game. I think, again, it's going to be a great game. Unranked Ohio State taking on Texas is ranked 21st? 21st, right? I think.
Yeah.
Ranked 21st. Again, I am going to take the non-ranked opponent to take down the ranked opponent here in our second upset of the season. Obviously, you know how high I am on Ohio State. Now, all 5 transfers, can they gel together? Honestly, to be honest, potentially this could be a very ugly basketball game because we don't know how Texas is going to perform. We don't know how Ohio State is going to perform. I think it's a great even game, though. I think Ohio State wins by 1. I'll say ugly game, 59-58, the final score. Ohio State pulls off the upset.
Yeah, I think this game is about as even as it can get for a starting game of the season.
Absolutely.
I think Texas is going to struggle with guarding Michi Johnson and the little dude with the dreads.
Little dude with the dreads, Ohio State.
Thornton.
Yeah.
Bruce Thornton. Yeah, I think they're going to struggle with guarding him. It's just hard for me to see Texas winning this game. So I think Ohio State wins this as well.
All right, let's get to our non-Power 5 games of the week, the mid-major games of the week, the games that Jeff will be watching.
Yeah, let's get weird, I'd say. My 9 Power 5 games of the week, we got Chattanooga versus versus St. Mary's, the one in California. Chattanooga, they're one of them teams every year that's battling for a SoCon championship. St. Mary's, they're going to be down this year. They lost a lot. They lost almost their whole team.
Yeah, Gonzaga's not even going to get touched in the West Coast Conference. They might beat
correct.
everybody by 30+.
Yeah, so I highlight this game because Chattanooga, I think they're going to be up and coming this year, and St. Mary's going to be down. So this is going to be a good game right off the beginning of the season. I mean, give me Chattanooga. I know, Kyle, you probably have no clue. Just throw a dart.
Yeah, man, give me Chattanooga as well, Give me Chattanooga as well. All I know is St. Mary's lost a lot. I know St. Mary's lost a lot. And I know Chattanooga is a team that does compete for that NCAA tournament bid every single year. So I know they're a team to definitely root for. Now, the travel across the country to California, it could hurt. I'm not going to lie. But I'll take Chattanooga here. Give me a 10-point Chattanooga win on the road to ruin St. Mary's season opener.
Yeah, I agree. Then you got Robert Morris versus Delaware. I'm excited to see Delaware play without their star players. Like, all their guys transferred out. So, one thing I will give to these mid-major schools is they recruit very well. So, they'll bring in players that are not exactly your 4 or 5-star recruits, but they'll bring in like a 3-star, 2-star, and they develop them very well. And that's one thing Delaware has always done. Ever since the dude from Kansas State last year.
Who you talking? Oh gosh, you talking about the small dude?
Williams. No.
Wait.
I forget his name, but they always develop players. Andy Carr went through Delaware first, transferred to Wake Forest. They're known to develop players that are animals.
Are you trying to mean Jameer Nelson Jr.?
Bang, that's it. Yeah.
He went to TCU. Wrong purple.
Nah, he played. That's where he started at, was Delaware.
Yeah. And then he transferred to TCU.
Yeah, so Delaware has always been known to develop all these players and turn them into monsters. But, yeah, so I mean, Robert Morris versus Delaware. I'm excited to see Delaware lose. They lost a lot. So this game will actually probably be a good game because Robert Morris, they're always and I'm excited to see how Delaware plays.
Yeah, give me those Delaware fighting Blue Hens. I got cousins that live right next to the university. Go Blue Hens. Yes. Go Blue
Keep
Hens.
going.
Give me a 5-point win over Robert Morris.
Trying to go. Second. um, then you got Milwaukee versus Northern Iowa. Both teams that are always in the bid for the end of the season every year. Uh, I want to see how Milwaukee plays, knowing they lost practically their whole team to the transfer portal.
Indeed, and that is why I'm picking Northern Iowa by 20 in this one, ladies and gentlemen.
I agree.
Milwaukee's
I
just
agree
too much of a
100%.
question mark. Northern Iowa is normally consistent. Give me Northern Iowa. That is, the Missouri Valley is a conference I do like to watch sometimes. That is a very fun conference to watch.
I agree. So yeah, so that's what I got. Uh, so you want to go through our national championship
Yeah,
game and
no.
winner?
Who is your two teams? So I listed my final four earlier. So I'll just start
Yeah,
first since I already did that. So I'll say final four matchup of Baylor versus Kansas and Duke versus Arkansas, and then I'll take Duke and Baylor, and then I think Jeremy Roach gets that revenge on those Duke Blue Devils, and he raises the national championship trophy, and Duke defeats Baylor. I mean Baylor defeats Duke in the national championship game.
yeah. I'm at Alabama. I'm at Alabama and Duke in a final. That's what I got. But I wouldn't be surprised if Louisville made it. But I'm gonna go Alabama and Duke. Give me Alabama to win it all.
Yeah,
It's pretty
that's a good
fair.
pick. That's
You can
absolutely a
call
great
it
pick.
square, but sleeper team McNeese State. But we'll talk about that another
Sleeper
day.
team. I mean, honestly, at this point, a Cinderella team last year it was NC State. The team this year, I think, if it were to be a Cinderella team, I think you could argue Rutgers. Maybe I think you could argue Rutgers. I think you could argue Wake Forest. I think you could argue Louisville. I think those would kind of be like your three sleeper teams, and then UCF as well. I think those could be your kind of like your four sleeper teams that could go on a low seed Cinderella run out of the
I
Power
agree.
Five.
I agree. I agree. Well, it was a long
Yes,
time.
it was.
Shit,
Thank
4 hours.
goodness we did. Preview shows always take a while. We promise this will not be 4 hours again.
It will not be four
It will
hours every
not be
week.
4 hours ever again.
To everybody who, if you did listen to this whole thing, I salute you and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know who's gonna be your favorite to win national championship, and give us some feedback. Let us know where we can improve, what went wrong. Uh, Kyle, you got anything else to add?
We hate Caleb Love. Go Duke. We hate North Carolina. Adios,
Bingo.
ladies and gentlemen.
Adios.